Hey guys, welcome to Fanfic Fanatics. So in today's video we are gonna see, what if Deku became weaponized robot and fell for Ochako? Before starting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are interested in MHA fanfictions. This story is IZUKU the Machine by Chitox 2. Now let's get started. In the bustling classroom of Aldera Junior High, the air buzzed with the restless energy of students in their final year. At the heart of it sat IZUKU Midoriya, his pencil scratching furiously across the pages of his worn notebook. His messy green hair fell over his forehead as he jotted down details of the morning's events, the sensational debut of the pro hero MT Lady, her towering figure dominating the news. Yet, his focus wavered as the teacher's voice cut through the chatter, commanding attention. "All right, everyone, settle down," the teacher barked, standing at the front of the room with a stack of career planning forms clutched in his hands. "You're in your last year of middle school, which means it's time to decide your futures." With a theatrical flourish, he tossed the papers into the air, letting them flutter down like confetti. A wide grin spread across his face. "Oh, who am I kidding? I know all of you want to be heroes." The classroom erupted in cheers. Students leapt from their seats, quirks sparking to life in a dazzling display of flames, sparks, and shifting shapes. All except two remained still. IZUKU, his head bowed over his notebook, and an ash-blonde boy lounging arrogantly with his feet propped on his desk. Yes, you all have incredible quirks," the teacher continued, waving a hand to calm the excitement. "But remember the rules, no using them in class." "Oi, teach," a brash voice interrupted. "Don't lump me in with these extras. They'll be nothing but sidekicks to some D-list pro hero." Katsuki Bakugo leaned back, his crimson eyes glinting with smug confidence. His words ignited a firestorm of protests from the other students, their voices rising in a cacophony of indignation. Bakugo's lips curled into a sneer, his palms sparking with small explosions as he dared them to challenge him. "I'll take you all on," the teacher sighed, picking up a form from his desk. "Well, Bakugo, it seems you're applying for UA." Murmurs rippled through the room. UA, hi, the most prestigious hero academy in Japan, was notorious for its grueling entrance exams and minuscule acceptance rate. The students exchanged glances, whispering about the odds. "Of course I am," Bakugo declared, vaulting onto his desk with a swagger that silenced the room. "I aced the mock test and the practical exam. I'm the only one here with the strength to be number one. I'll be the greatest hero, with power and fame even All Might can't touch. And it all starts at UA." The teacher flipped through the forms, his expression unchanging. "Oh, Midoriya, you're also applying for UA." The room fell silent for a heartbeat before erupting into mocking laughter. Heads turned to IZUKU, who lifted his gaze from his notebook, his freckled face flushed with embarrassment. "He won't make it," one student jeered. "Give it up, Deku," another taunted. IZUKU's heart pounded, his fingers tightening around his pencil. He opened his mouth to speak, to defend his dream, when a deafening explosion rocked the room. His desk splintered under a fiery blast, and he was thrown back, slamming into the wall with a grunt. "Deku," Bakugo loomed over him, his palms still smoking. "Do you really think a quirkless loser like you can even be on the same page as me?" IZUKU struggled to his feet, his voice trembling but resolute. I'm going to try, Kachan. Going to UA has been my dream. There's no harm in trying, right?" Bakugo's eyes narrowed, his voice dripping with venom. "You're nothing but a waste of space." Before he could continue, the teacher's sharp command cut through the tension. "Bakugo, take your seat. No more trouble." IZUKU sank back into his chair, his chest tight with a simmering anger he fought to suppress. He clenched his fists, willing himself to stay calm. Time skip. The final bell rang, and the classroom emptied, leaving IZUKU to gather his things. The sting of Bakugo's words lingered, fueling a quiet rage that pulsed beneath his skin. "Maybe going over my notes will help," he muttered, reaching for his notebook. A hand snatched it from his grasp. IZUKU's heart sank as he looked up to see Bakugo, flanked by two lanky lackeys. "We're not done yet, Deku," Bakugo sneered. "Hey, Bakugo, what's that?" one of the lackeys asked, peering at the notebook. Bakugo glanced at the cover and scoffed. "Hero Analysis for the Future, number 13. You never learn, do you?" The second lackey laughed. "He still thinks he can be a hero. Man, you're hilarious. Izuku's voice wavered. See, can I have it back, please? Bakugo's response was swift and cruel. He ignited a small explosion, charring the notebook's edges, then tossed it out the window. Izuku's breath caught as he watched it fall. Why does he always do this? He whispered, his voice barely audible. Bakugo sauntered over, placing a searing hand on Izuku's shoulder. The heat burned through his shirt, singeing his skin. I'm a perfectionist, Deku. That means I'm the only one who gets to go to UA. The rest of you can just talk about how I made it out of this rundown school. So here's what you do: don't apply for UA or any hero course. Got it? His smile was cold, predatory. Releasing Izuku, he turned to leave, but paused at the door. Oh, and if you want a quirk so bad, jump off the school building and pray you get one in your next life. The door slammed shut, leaving Izuku alone. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, his hands clenching into fists so tight his knuckles whitened. Anger surged, but he exhaled shakily, forcing it down. He had to find his notebook. He couldn't lose it, not after everything. Unbeknownst to him, a faint, robotic voice echoed in his mind, unnoticed in his turmoil. User, IZUKU Midoriya. Dormant power will be unlocked in a life or death situation. Asterisk. Izuku trudged across the school grounds, his eyes scanning for his notebook. He found it in a fish pond, its pages soggy but intact. That's not food, he muttered, glaring at the koi nibbling at the edges. Stupid Kachan. If I really did what you said, I'd make sure you couldn't go to UA either. He sighed, clutching the notebook to his chest. Memories of his younger self flooded his mind, dreams of soaring through the skies like All Might, of saving people with a smile. But when the doctor had declared him quirkless, the world had turned its back on him. Everyone except his mother, Inko, who had held him close and promised to support him no matter what. Clenching his fist, Izuku started toward a tunnel on his way home, his resolve hardening. I'll make it, no matter what, he declared, his voice echoing off the concrete walls. He laughed, mimicking All Might's booming chuckle, unaware of a shadow stirring behind him. A gurgling voice broke the silence. Ah, a medium-sized bodysuit. Izuku spun around, his eyes widening at the sight of a massive, writhing mass of slime. A villain, he gasped, stumbling back. He turned to run, but the slime villain lunged, enveloping him in a suffocating, viscous prison. Izuku thrashed, clawing at the slime, but it only tightened its grip. Don't struggle, the villain hissed. This'll take about 45 seconds, and then I'll be able to avoid him. You're my hero, kid. Izuku's vision blurred as he gasped for air, his hands scraping the ground. His notebook lay open nearby, a sketch of a hero suit staring back at him. Damn it, he choked. I can't breathe. Am I gonna die? Please, someone help me. A booming voice shattered the villain's taunts. Fear not, citizens, for I am here. The slime villain recoiled, but before it could strike, a massive figure blurred into motion. TXASSSSSSSSSMMMMMAAAAAAASSSSSSHHH. The force of the punch sent the slime exploding outward, freeing Izuku. He collapsed, gasping, his vision swimming as he glimpsed a towering silhouette. All Might, he whispered before darkness claimed him. A robotic voice chimed in his mind, unheard. User, IZUKU Midoriya. Power has now been unlocked during life or death situation. Power. Weaponization. The ability to let the user use their body as a weapon. Other features locked until further notice. Rebooting systems in 10 minutes. Changing body structure in 10 minutes. Asterisk. 5 minutes later, Izuku stirred as someone slapped his cheek. Hey, wake up, he groaned, his eyes fluttering open to see a broad, grinning face framed by wild blonde hair. Oh, I see you're still kicking. All Might's voice boomed, his smile radiant. Izuku's jaw dropped. I can't believe it. It's All Might, in the flesh. He's even cooler in person. His voice trembled with awe, his earlier fear forgotten. Scrambling for his notebook, he flipped it open to find All Might's bold signature scrawled across a page. Thank you, thank you. This is a family heirloom now. All Might chuckled, holding up a plastic bottle containing the defeated slime villain. All right, I best be on my way to deliver this villain to the police. Izuku's heart sank. He's already leaving, but I have so much to ask, he thought, ignoring the faint robotic voice in his head. 3 minutes left until rebooting and body structure completion. Asterisk. Well then, stay safe, civilian. All Might crouched, preparing to leap into the sky. But as he launched upward, he felt a weight on his leg. Looking down, he saw IZUKU clinging desperately to him. Young man, I love my fans, but this is too much. Let go, All Might shouted. If I do, I'll die. IZUKU yelled, his voice muffled against the wind. Oh, right, All Might conceded. All right, just close your mouth. Unbeknownst to them, the bottle containing the slime villain slipped from All Might's grasp, tumbling to the ground below. They landed on a rooftop, IZUKU collapsing with his hands on the ground, sweating profusely. I think my life just flashed before my eyes, he gasped. All Might adjusted his stance. Now, I must be on my way. IZUKU's heart raced. He couldn't let this chance slip away. Please, wait, I need to know. He took a deep breath, eyes squeezed shut. Is it possible to become a hero without a quirk? All Might froze, his expression shifting. You're quirkless, he asked, his voice tinged with surprise. Suddenly, he clutched his side, steam hissing from his body. Damn it, I'm running out of time. IZUKU, oblivious to the change, poured out his heart. No one but my mom believes I can be a hero. I just want to know if it's possible, if I can. He opened his eyes, expecting to see All Might's towering form. Instead, a cloud of smoke dissipated, revealing a gaunt man with messy blonde hair, 2 strands falling over his face. His oversized clothes hung loosely, unmistakably All Might's, but on a frame that looked frail and broken. What? Where's All Might? Did he leave? Are you a fake? IZUKU stammered, his mind racing. The robotic voice chimed again, unnoticed. 1 minute left until rebooting and body structure completion. Asterisk. I assure you, I'm the real All Might, the man said, coughing blood. IZUKU's eyes widened in panic. The reason I'm like this. All Might sat heavily, lifting his shirt to reveal a gruesome scar on his left side. 5 years ago, I got this. It destroyed my stomach and damaged my respiratory system. No doctor could fix it. Now, I'm limited to about 3 hours a day in my hero form. IZUKU stood frozen, his hero's vulnerability shattering his worldview. 5 years ago, was it Toxic Chainsaw? He asked, his voice small. All Might's lips quirked. You know your stuff, kid. But no, he couldn't take me down. It was another villain, far worse. He leaned forward, his blue eyes intense. The public can't know their symbol of peace is just skin and bones. If villains found out, they'd wreak havoc. That's why I smile, even when I'm scared. IZUKU's mind reeled, the weight of All Might's words sinking in. The robotic voice spoke again. 20 seconds left until rebooting and body structure completion. Asterisk. Before All Might could continue, IZUKU let out a guttural scream, collapsing to his knees. Heat surged through his body, his muscles seizing as if being reshaped from within. He clawed at the ground, gasping in agony. Young man, are you all right? All Might rushed forward, but the heat radiating from IZUKU forced him back. A stream of scorching energy enveloped IZUKU, obscuring him from view. Young man, All Might called again, his voice laced with panic. A robotic voice rang out, clear and commanding. Body structure now complete. 2 features now available for user. IZUKU Midoriya. Asterisk. The heat dissipated, and All Might's eyes widened. Standing before him was IZUKU, but something was different. His frame seemed sharper, his presence charged with an unfamiliar energy. The boy who had been quirkless moments ago now radiated a power that neither of them could yet comprehend. IZUKU's paw. My body felt like it was burning from the inside out, a searing heat pulsing in my chest as if my heart might burst. Steam hissed from my skin, clouding my vision, leaving only All Might's faint outline in the haze. Pixels danced across my eyes, disorienting, and a metallic tang coated my tongue, making me gag. Body structure now complete. 2 features are now available for user. IZUKU Midoriya. The robotic voice echoed in my head, and just like that, the pain vanished. The heat subsided, the pixels faded, and the steam cleared. I stood, feeling different, taller, somehow. My school uniform clung tightly to my frame, the fabric straining. I glanced at my hands. They were encased in a sleek, black material, glinting with silver accents and large, circular ports in my palms. My heart raced, but my mind was strangely calm. All Might stared at me, his sunken eyes wide with shock. "Young man," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I met his gaze, noticing my reflection in a nearby window. My eyes, once forest green, now glowed a fierce gold. A smile tugged at my lips. "It seems I finally have a quirk, All Might." I stepped toward him, and he blinked, still processing. "A late bloomer, then," he said, his voice tinged with awe. I nodded, my mind racing with questions about these features the voice mentioned. "All Might," I said, my tone firm, "it seems I have two abilities as part of my quirk. Can you wait a moment? I want to see if one of them can help heal your wound." His eyebrows shot up, his frail form trembling slightly. "If it's possible, young IZUKU Midoriya, was it? Go for it." "IZUKU Midoriya, sir," I confirmed, closing my eyes to focus. The robotic voice returned, clearer now, detailing my new powers. Feature number 1. Heat Blaster. The user can fire high condensed heat from the palms of their hands and soles of their feet. Heat Blaster can be applied to the user's arms and legs. The user can adjust the heat's intensity. Warning: if the user overheats, Heat Blaster will be unavailable until cooled down. Feature number 2. Fast Healing. The user can heal their own body from minor to severe injuries and can also heal other lifeforms. Drawback: healing causes temporary numbness in the affected area. My eyes snapped open, a grin spreading across my face. "I can heal you, All Might. Get ready." He lifted his baggy shirt, revealing the gruesome scar on his side. I could see the doubt in his eyes. He'd been to countless specialists, even his personal doctor, and none could help. But I had to try. My right hand glowed faintly, the black material shimmering as I activated fast healing. I placed my palm on his scar, focusing as warmth flowed from me into him. All Might tensed, his face contorting with strain. It didn't take long. The voice chimed again. "Fast healing has taken effect and is now complete." I stepped back, and All Might's jaw dropped. The scar was gone, his skin smooth and unmarred. I can't thank you enough, young Midoriya," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "No problem," I replied, scratching the back of my neck. "But be careful, there's a drawback. You'll feel slight numbness for a bit, so take it easy." As if on cue, All Might wobbled, his legs unsteady like they'd fallen asleep. He chuckled, bracing himself. "You're right, I'll take it slow." A sudden explosion roared in the distance, shattering the moment. My eyes widened, scanning the skyline where smoke billowed. "All Might, the sludge villain, do you still have him?" His face mirrored my panic. We both knew who was causing that chaos. Determination surged through me, heat prickling in my palms. "All Might," I said, meeting his gaze, "I'm going to that location to see what's happening. I'll carry you until the numbness wears off." He nodded, and I scooped him up bridal style, careful not to jostle him. My palms stayed cool, but I activated Heat Blaster in my feet. My shoes and pant legs singed as flames erupted from my soles, propelling us into the sky. My golden eyes locked onto the plume of smoke, guiding us toward the chaos. Nobody's paw. High above the city, IZUKU Midoriya soared, his Heat Blaster propelling him forward with All Might cradled in his arms. The #1 hero, still in his frail form, remained numb from the healing, his body not yet ready to transform. Izuku's school uniform was tattered at the legs, but his focus was unbreakable as he zeroed in on the source of the destruction. They landed a safe distance from the crowd, hidden from view. Izuku set All Might down, who staggered slightly, chuckling. "Not quite 100% yet," he admitted, leaning against a pole to shake off the numbness. Izuku's attention shifted to the scene unfolding ahead. Flames licked at buildings, and the sludge villain's grotesque form writhed in the center of the chaos. Heroes, Kamui Woods, Death Arms, and others, formed a perimeter, keeping civilians back but doing little to stop the villain. Izuku's fists clenched as he pushed through the crowd, his eyes narrowing at the sight of a hostage trapped within the sludge. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, questioning why the heroes weren't acting. Izuku's paw. My blood ran cold. The hostage's ash blonde hair and crimson eyes were unmistakable. Katsuki. His gaze met mine, pleading for help. My heart pounded, but I didn't hesitate. I glanced back at All Might, who nodded, understanding my intent. Before he could speak, I sprinted forward, ignoring the hero's shouts. My hands shifted, the sleek black material glinting as I activated Heat Blaster. The sludge villain laughed, a wet, gurgling sound. "What's this? Another brat to crush," he taunted. I ripped off my backpack, hurling it at the villain's face. My notebook spilled out, momentarily blinding him. Katsuki gasped for air, and I seized the moment, grabbing his arm. Heat surged through my forearms, and with a powerful yank, I pulled him free, tumbling backward to put distance between us and the villain. "What the hell are you doing here, Deku?" Katsuki roared, his voice hoarse but fierce. I met his eyes, my golden gaze filled with worry. He froze, shocked by the change in me. The villain's curses echoed behind us. "Damn you, brat, I'll kill you for taking my meat shield." Tendrils lashed out, but a massive shadow loomed. "You, young man, are full of surprises." All Might's voice boomed as he reverted to his muscular form, shrugging off the numbness. "But let me handle this." The villain snarled, "Damn you, All Might." As tendrils surged toward him, All Might dodged with lightning speed, cocking his fist. "Now I'll show you the power of a pro." Detroit Smash. The air pressure from his punch obliterated the sludge villain, scattering it into harmless droplets. The shockwave altered the weather, dark clouds parting as rain began to fall, dousing the flames. The aftermath was chaotic. News reporters swarmed All Might, who grinned and answered their questions with his signature charisma. IZUKU and Katsuki sat on the ground, catching their breath. Katsuki received praise from onlookers, but his expression was blank, ignoring them. IZUKU, however, faced a barrage of criticism from Kamui Woods and Death Arms. "That was reckless," Kamui snapped. "You could have gotten yourself killed." I nodded, understanding, but Death Arms' next words ignited a fire in me. "You're lucky All Might saved you and that other kid, you quirkless brat. Stay out of a pro's way." My jaw clenched, my hands balling into fists. Kamui shot Death Arms a look. "That's too far," he said, but Death Arms shrugged. "Just being honest, he shouldn't have interfered." I grabbed my bag, my temper flaring. As I turned to leave, Death Arms gripped my shoulder. "Hey, kid, we're not." Instinct took over. I seized his arm, pivoted, and threw him over my shoulder in a judo flip, sending him crashing to the ground. Without a word, I stormed off, my heart pounding. Time skip. I leaned against a wall, catching my breath, my mind replaying the fight. The adrenaline still surged, my new quirk thrumming beneath my skin. A shout broke my thoughts. "Hey, nerd." I turned to see Katsuki jogging toward me, his expression unreadable. He stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets, and looked down. "Look, you damn nerd." I braced for another insult, but his next words stunned me. "Thanks for saving me. If it wasn't for you, I'd be dead." He lifted his head, offering a small, genuine smile. My eyes widened. "Katsuki," I said, abandoning his nickname for the first time in years. I smiled back. "I'm glad I saved you. I couldn't let you die, not when you still have your dream of becoming a hero." He frowned, his fist clenching. He said firmly. "We still have our dream of becoming heroes. What you did, it opened my eyes. I need to change." He bowed his head, a gesture so unlike him that I stepped back. "I'm sorry for what I did to you for 10 years. All the praise I got made me a bully, to you, to others. I'm sorry for what I said at school. I'm an ass, a jerk, a delusional fool." I reached out, lifting his chin gently, my smile soft. "You don't know how long I've waited to hear that, Katsuki. But I'm not ready to forgive you just yet. I want to, though. I'm glad to have my childhood friend back, even if it's a start." His smile widened, a rare warmth in his eyes. "Good. And when we get to UA, I'll have your back, no matter how big the obstacle." He extended his fist. "And I'll have yours, until the end," I said, meeting his fist with my own. Our knuckles bumped, sealing a new bond. Katsuki turned to leave, and I felt a weight lift from my chest. "I'm glad," I whispered, starting to walk home. "Haha. I am here." All Might's voice boomed out of nowhere, making me jump. He landed in front of me, his muscular form towering. All Might. But the reporters, I stammered. Those reporters can't match my speed. He laughed. I escaped because I am All Might. Steam hissed, and he reverted to his frail form, though his frame seemed less gaunt, healthier. I can't thank you enough, young Midoriya, he said, his voice softer. Healing my wound, saving your friend, you inspired me to push forward. You'll be an incredible hero. Tears welled in my eyes, his words hitting a dream I'd clung to for years. But then he said something that threw me. Which is why I deem you worthy of inheriting my quirk. I blinked, confusion washing over me. Wait, what? Error has been formed. The robotic voice chimed, and my world tilted, leaving me staring at All Might, wondering what he meant, and what my new quirk had in store. IZUKU Midoriya stood frozen, his golden eyes wide with disbelief as All Might's words echoed in his mind. The frail figure before him, no longer the towering symbol of peace, had just offered him the unimaginable, the chance to inherit his quirk, one for all. The robotic voice in Izuku's head chimed ominously. Error has been formed, but he barely registered it, his thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and resolve. Inherit your quirk? Izuku asked, his voice trembling with uncertainty. How is that even possible? All Might's gaunt face broke into a hearty laugh, though it quickly softened into a serious expression. When reporters pry about my quirk, whether it's strength or speed, I sidestep their questions with clever quips. But the truth is, my power is something ancient, born when quirks first emerged. It's called One for All, a sacred flame passed down through generations, growing stronger with each successor. He raised a trembling hand, and a faint, rainbow-like glow shimmered around it, mesmerizing in its ethereal beauty. Izuku's breath caught, his awe evident as he stared at the radiant display. All Might's eyes gleamed with conviction. You, young Midoriya, have the heart and courage to be the next #1 hero. Will you accept my quirk? The weight of the offer pressed down on Izuku. His lifelong idol, the man he'd idolized since childhood, was offering him a power that could reshape his destiny. But as the words sank in, memories flooded back, clinging to All Might's leg in desperation, the sludge villain's suffocating grip, the moment his own quirk had awakened. If his power hadn't manifested, what would All Might have said? That a quirkless boy could never be a hero. The thought gnawed at him, a bitter seed of doubt. After a long pause, Izuku met All Might's gaze, his decision clear. I appreciate your offer, All Might, he said, his voice steady but soft. But I have to decline. All Might's eyes widened, his skeletal frame stiffening. Why, young Midoriya? Izuku took a deep breath, his golden eyes unwavering. I just got this quirk, and I need to understand what I can do with it. I have 10 months to train for UA's entrance exam, to prove I can stand on my own. I'm sorry, but I'm sticking with my decision. All Might's expression softened, though a flicker of disappointment crossed his face. I understand, but consider this. One for All could amplify your potential, make you a symbol for the people. Izuku shook his head, a faint smile tugging at his lips. I've thought it through, All Might. My answer's no. If that's all, I should go. Goodbye. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving All Might standing alone, his mind racing. Had he misjudged the boy? The symbol of peace watched Izuku's retreating figure, a mix of respect and uncertainty settling in his chest. At home, Izuku was greeted by his mother, Inko, her face etched with worry. Izuku, where have you been? I was so scared, she cried, pulling him into a tight hug. He forced a smile, his heart heavy. Mom, I got a quirk today. Inko's eyes widened, tears spilling over as she gasped. A quirk? Oh, Izuku. She hugged him again, her joy infectious. We're celebrating with Katsudon tonight. As they ate, Izuku's smile faltered when Inko wasn't looking. The warmth of the moment couldn't dispel the hollow feeling inside him. All Might's words, his offer, the doubt, they lingered like a shadow. That night, sleep eluded Izuku. He stood before his mirror, shirtless, studying his transformed body. His muscles were more defined, his frame slightly broader. Activating his quirk, his eyes glowed gold, the tips of his green hair shifting to a dirty blonde. His arms were coated in sleek, black material from fingertips to forearms, and 5 glowing slits lined his chest and abdomen, pulsing with heat. His palms, embedded with circular ports, shimmered faintly. "I knew it," he muttered, his voice laced with bitterness. If my quirk hadn't shown up, he would have said it's impossible for a quirkless kid to be a hero. A hypocrite. His fist clenched, the black material glinting. He would have crushed my dream. Anger surged, and he tore down every All Might poster, figurine, and trinket in his room, stuffing them into a box. The act was cathartic, but exhaustion soon took over. Deactivating his quirk, he collapsed into bed, his mind torn between hope and resentment. His life was changing, whether for better or worse, he couldn't yet tell. The next morning marked the start of 10 grueling months. IZUKU chose Dagoba Beach, a trash-strewn wasteland, as his training ground. For 5 months, he toiled alone, clearing mountains of debris, rusted appliances, broken furniture, and discarded tires. His heat blaster melted scrap metal, and his fast healing mended cuts and bruises from the labor. The beach transformed, its sands gleaming under the sun, a testament to his determination. The remaining 5 months were dedicated to mastering his quirk. He experimented with heat blaster, firing controlled bursts from his palms and feet, learning to adjust the intensity to avoid overheating. Fast healing proved invaluable, though the numbness it caused slowed him down at times. He avoided All Might, who occasionally appeared in the distance, watching silently before leaving. IZUKU didn't want his pity or his quirk. His time with Katsuki Bakugo, however, became a cornerstone of his journey. The two trained together, pushing each other to their limits. Katsuki's explosions tore through makeshift targets, while IZUKU's heat blaster carved precise paths through obstacles. They studied late into the night, quizzing each other on hero laws and tactics. Their rivalry softened into something deeper, a bond forged in sweat and mutual respect, like brothers who'd weathered a storm together. "Oi, nerd," Katsuki said one evening, tossing IZUKU a water bottle after a sparring session. "You're not half bad anymore. Don't screw this up at UA." IZUKU caught the bottle, grinning. "Wouldn't dream of it, Katsuki. You better keep up, though." Katsuki smirked, punching his shoulder. "In your dreams." The day of UA's entrance exam arrived, and IZUKU stood before the towering gates of the prestigious academy, his junior high uniform crisp despite his nerves. His golden eyes shimmered with anticipation. "This is it," he murmured, a smile breaking through. "My next step to becoming something different. If you're thinking of turning back, I'll drag you to the ground, nerd." Katsuki's voice cut in, his tone teasing but warm. IZUKU turned, his smile widening. "Oh, come on, Katsuki. Have some faith in me." Katsuki snorted, crossing his arms. "The day I believe in fate is the day I get a girlfriend." IZUKU laughed, clapping a hand over his mouth. "Don't tempt the universe." "Shut it," Katsuki grumbled, shoving past him toward the entrance. IZUKU chuckled, following, but his foot caught on a crack in the pavement. He stumbled, bracing for impact, only to float gently, suspended in midair. "Are you okay?" a cheerful voice asked, accompanied by a soft laugh. IZUKU's eyes met those of a girl with warm brown eyes and a permanent blush dusting her cheeks. Her chestnut hair was styled in a neat bob, framing her face with an almost ethereal charm. She lowered him gently to the ground, her hands clasped nervously. "I'm sorry for using my quirk on you," she said, her voice bubbly yet apologetic. "But it would have been a bad omen if you fell on your face before the exam." IZUKU's cheeks flushed, words failing him as she rambled about her own nerves. Before he could respond, she waved goodbye and hurried off. He sighed, rubbing his face, a blush lingering. A rough hand grabbed his collar, yanking him forward. "Come on, nerd," Katsuki growled, dragging him toward the building. "You can daydream about Roundface after the exam." IZUKU nodded, scrambling to his feet, and followed Katsuki inside. The written exam passed in a blur of focused effort, and soon they were seated in UA's auditorium, where Present Mike's booming voice filled the space. "Welcome one and all to my live show," Present Mike shouted, his blonde hair spiked dramatically. "Everybody say HEEEY." Silence greeted him, but he pressed on undeterred. "I've got shivers down my spine, listeners. All right, examinees, here's the lowdown on the practical test. Are you ready?" "Yeah," Izuku tried to hide his excitement, his eyes sparkling at seeing the pro-hero in person. Katsuki smirked beside him. Fanboy. Izuku shot him a playful glare. Says the guy with a closet full of All Might figurines. Katsuki's face reddened. Shut it, nerd. Present Mike explained the point system, projecting images of robots worth 1 to 3 points, and a mysterious fourth robot with 0 points. Izuku's curiosity piqued, but before he could ponder further, a tall examinee with glasses stood, his voice sharp. "Excuse me, sir," he called, adjusting his glasses. "If UA has made an error in listing 4 robots instead of 3, it's a disgrace to this institution." He turned, pointing at Izuku. "And you, with the curly green hair, stop muttering. You're distracting. If you think UA is a pleasure jaunt, leave now." Izuku's eyes narrowed, steam curling from his clenched fists. "Go fuck yourself, prick," he snapped, flipping him off. Katsuki stifled a laugh as the examinee sputtered, offended. Present Mike intervened, calming the crowd. "The 0-point robot is an arena trap," he explained. "It's a gimmick that goes wild in tight spaces. Now, let's get to it, plus ultra." Izuku and Katsuki fist bumped, their resolve solidified. "Don't lose to these extras, nerd," Katsuki said, his grin fierce. "Wouldn't dream of it," Izuku replied, his own grin matching his friends as they headed to their assigned testing district. In the Mock City district, Izuku stood among the examinees, his hands clenching as he activated his quirk. The black material spread across his arms, heat radiating from the slits on his chest. The other candidates exuded confidence, but Izuku's focus was razor-sharp. He spotted the brown-haired girl from earlier, her nervous smile catching his eye. He started toward her to thank her, but a hand clamped onto his shoulder. "That girl's trying to focus," the bespectacled examinee from the auditorium said, his tone accusatory. "Are you planning to distract her? What's your game, obstructing your fellow test-takers?" Laughter erupted from nearby candidates, their jeers stoking Izuku's anger. He shook off the hand, his voice low and dangerous. "I don't owe you an explanation. Stop meddling in other people's business, or you'll get a metallic foot up your ass." The examinee gaped, shocked by Izuku's bluntness, but before he could retort, Present Mike's voice blared, "On start." Izuku's heat blaster ignited at his feet, launching him forward in a burst of flame, leaving a trail of dust. The other examinees scrambled, startled by Present Mike's follow-up, no countdown in a real battle. Izuku tore through the city, blasting 1- and 2-point robots with precise heat bursts. His points climbed rapidly, and as he dispatched a 3-pointer, a new sensation washed over him. Black material crept along his jaw and eyes, forming sleek, dark shades. New upgrade activated. Calculated specs. Allows the user to assess danger within their field of vision. No of points. 56. New feature now available. Heavy artillery. Primary function. Incinerate. Secondary function unavailable. Izuku's heart raced with excitement, his new upgrade and feature fueling his confidence. In the control room, UA's faculty watched the monitors, their voices a mix of analysis and intrigue. "A strict time limit and vast battlefield," one teacher remarked. "It draws out their ardor and reveals their true skills. Insight, agility, judgment, and raw fighting prowess," another added. "The points system measures it all. We've got a strong batch this year," a third said, leaning forward. "Not yet," a gruff voice countered. "The real test is coming." A button was pressed, and the ground trembled as the 0-point robot, a colossal mechanical beast, emerged, its shadow swallowing the city. Izuku's calculated specs scanned the 0-pointer, feeding him data on its structure and weak points. But as he glanced at the fleeing examinees, disgust twisted his gut. They were abandoning the fight, prioritizing their own safety. His gaze landed on the brown-haired girl, Ochako, trapped under rubble, her leg pinned as the 0-pointer loomed closer. Anger and worry surged, his body glowing with power. He activated Heat Blaster, his tracksuit catching fire as he rocketed toward her. "Hang on," he shouted, melting the rubble with a controlled burst and freeing her leg. Ochako looked up, her eyes wide. I never got to thank you for earlier," Izuku said, his voice firm. "Let me return the favor." His body superheated, the flames consuming his jacket to reveal his metallic chest, the glowing slits pulsing. His calculated specs blazed as he clasped his hands together, energy crackling. Heavy artillery. Incinerate. Sparks erupted around him, and a massive, superheated blast roared from his hands, reducing the zero-pointer to a cloud of ash. The shockwave silenced the battlefield, examinees and judges alike staring in awe. As the blast faded, Izuku's arms went limp, his body trembling from the strain of heat blaster and heavy artillery. He dropped to one knee, forcing a smile at Ochako. "I'm Izuku Midoriya. Nice to finally meet you." "Ochako Uraraka," she replied, grabbing his arm to help him stand, her own legs shaky. "Thanks for the save." "No problem," he said, returning her thumbs up. "I owe you one." The exam ended, but as Izuku caught his breath, a distorted robotic voice echoed in his mind. N-E times TUEWI acute LLBE acute AVIBLEUNTUSRSANGE grave RHOWSEXTME grave LEVELS. ... Fewer ... D question mark. On question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark. Asterisk. Izuku froze, the garbled message sending a chill down his spine. Something powerful stirred within him, but it wasn't ready to surface, not yet. He pushed the thought aside, his focus returning to the path ahead. UA was just the beginning, and he'd face it with his own strength, alongside the brother he'd found in Katsuki, and the mysterious new power thrumming in his veins. The week following the UA entrance exam had been a whirlwind for Izuku Midoriya. The anticipation of his results gnawed at him, but it wasn't all-consuming. In that short span, he'd forged a new friendship with Ochako Uraraka, a girl whose buoyant spirit contrasted sharply with the explosive temperament of his childhood friend, Katsuki Bakugo. Introducing them had been like tossing a lit match into a pile of kindling. Their personalities clashed immediately, Ochako's earnest warmth grating against Katsuki's bristling pride. It took Izuku's patient mediation, his quiet insistence on civility, to coax them into a fragile truce. They agreed to be cordial, if only for his sake, and Izuku counted that as a small victory. Now, in the stillness of his room, Izuku sat cross-legged on his bed, a notebook splayed open before him. The pages were filled with meticulous notes about his quirk, a power he'd only begun to unravel. His eyes scanned the familiar entries, each one a piece of the puzzle that was his newfound strength. Feature number 1: Heat Blaster. The ability to unleash concentrated bursts of heat from his palms and soles. It was versatile, allowing him to channel the energy through his arms and legs, adjusting the intensity as needed. But overuse risked overheating, rendering the ability useless until his body cooled. Feature number 2: Fast Healing. A regenerative power that mended wounds, from minor scrapes to grievous injuries, and extended to healing others. The drawback was a lingering numbness, a small price for such a gift. Feature number 3: Calculated Specs. A tactical edge, granting him heightened awareness of threats within his line of sight. It was like a sixth sense, sharpening his instincts in the heat of danger. Feature number 4: Heavy Artillery. A destructive force, capable of wielding weapons of immense power. Its primary function, incinerate, was formidable, though its secondary function remained locked, a mystery yet to be solved. Then there was the final entry, the one that sent a shiver down his spine. The text was garbled, a chaotic jumble of symbols and fragmented words. N-E times FTUEWI acute LLBE acute AVIBLEUNTUSRSANGE grave RHOWSEXTME grave LEVELS. ... Fey, your ... D question mark. On question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark. Asterisk. The words pulsed with an eerie energy, as if taunting him. Izuku's brow furrowed, his mind racing to decipher the cryptic message. Was it a glitch in his quirk? A hidden power waiting to be unlocked? The mention of anger and extreme levels unsettled him, stirring a quiet unease in his chest. Before he could dwell further, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed through the apartment. Inko Midoriya's voice rang out, bright with excitement. Izuku. Izuku. It came. It's here. Your letter is here. Izuku snapped the notebook shut, his heart leaping. He bolted from his room, meeting his mother in the living room. Her hands trembled as she held out a sealed envelope bearing the UA crest. "Open it, Izuku," she urged, her eyes shimmering with anticipation. He took the envelope, his fingers steady despite the storm of nerves within. With a deep breath, he tore it open, revealing not a letter but a small disc. Confusion flickered across his face as he placed it on the table. The disc hummed to life, projecting a hologram that filled the room with light, and a voice that made Izuku's stomach twist. "I am here as a projection," All Might's booming voice declared, his iconic grin dominating the image. Izuku's expression darkened, his jaw tightening. He hadn't forgiven the symbol of peace for his earlier words, for dismissing him as incapable without a quirk. He sat rigidly, arms crossed, as the hologram continued. "Young Midoriya, you excelled in the written exam, passing with flying colors. In the practical, you secured 56 points, more than enough to pass. But there's more. Your actions in saving a young girl earned you 50 rescue points from the judges, and young Uraraka earned 45 for her efforts. Congratulations, young Midoriya, you've earned your place at UA." The words should have sparked joy, but Izuku's resentment toward All Might overshadowed the moment. His hand twitched, heat rising in his palm. For a fleeting second, he imagined crushing the disc, letting his heat blaster reduce it to ash. But he stopped himself, exhaling sharply. He wouldn't let anger define him. Not now. Inko, oblivious to his inner turmoil, gasped and threw her arms around him. "Izuku, you did it. I'm so proud." Tears streamed down her face as she hugged him tightly, her warmth pulling a genuine smile from him. For her, he could set aside his bitterness, if only for a moment. After calming his mother, Izuku grabbed his phone and fired off texts to Ochako and Katsuki, sharing the news. Their replies came quickly, Ochako's brimming with emojis and excitement, Katsuki's a curt but sincere, "TCH, not bad, nerd." Both had passed as well, and the shared triumph lifted Izuku's spirits further. But as midnight approached, sleep eluded him. Restless, he slipped out of bed and opened his window, letting the cool night air wash over him. The stars glittered above, a vast canvas of light that seemed to beckon. His thoughts drifted back to that cryptic fifth feature, its ominous warning echoing in his mind. "Whatever it is," he muttered, "I just hope it doesn't cause trouble." His gaze fell to his left hand, which shimmered as he willed it to shift, the skin taking on a metallic sheen. He clenched his fist, the surface glinting under the moonlight. "I don't need his power," he whispered, his voice tinged with defiance. "Not if he thought I was weak from the start." The weight of All Might's earlier dismissal lingered, a wound that hadn't fully healed. But UA awaited, a chance to prove himself on his own terms. "I just hope I don't have to deal with any more jerks," he said with a wry chuckle, thinking of Katsuki's temper. "One's enough." The night air carried a faint salt tang as Izuku stepped onto the beach he'd spent months cleaning, transforming it from a junk-strewn wasteland into a pristine shore. The waves lapped gently at the sand, their rhythm soothing. He'd come here to clear his head, to escape the confines of his room and the questions swirling in his mind. As he walked, a figure caught his eye, a lanky man standing near the water's edge, gazing out at the horizon. His silhouette was unmistakable, even in this diminished form. Toshinori Yagi, All Might's true self, looked less frail than before, his shoulders a bit broader, his posture steadier. Izuku hesitated, then approached, his footsteps soft against the sand. Toshinori turned, his sunken eyes lighting up with recognition. "Young Midoriya," he said, his voice warm but quieter than his heroic persona. "What brings you here so late?" Izuku shrugged, shoving his hands into his pockets. "Couldn't sleep. Needed some air." He paused, then added, "You look better." Toshinori chuckled, a low, rasping sound. "I'm mending, slowly. This beach, your work here, it's remarkable. A testament to your resolve." Izuku nodded, unsure how to respond. An awkward silence settled between them, broken only by the waves. Finally, Izuku spoke, his voice steady but laced with something deeper. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," Toshinori said, turning to face him fully. Izuku's gaze dropped to the sand, his hands clenching at his sides. "If I didn't have a quirk, if I'd been quirkless when we met, what would you have told me?" "About being a hero." The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken pain. Toshinori's expression softened, but his eyes held a weight of their own. He took a slow breath, choosing his words with care. I'd have told you it was too dangerous. That a quirkless person, no matter how brave, would face a path that could destroy them, or lead to an early grave. Izuku's fists tightened, his nails biting into his palms. The words stung, confirming what he'd feared. So you'd have said I couldn't do it. Toshinori met his gaze, unflinching. Yes, not because you lacked heart, young Midoriya, but because the world is cruel to those without power. I've seen too many good people break under that weight. I'd have wanted to protect you from that. Izuku's jaw clenched, a storm of emotions churning within. Anger, hurt, but also a grudging respect for the honesty. He exhaled, the tension easing slightly. I get it, you've seen things I haven't. You know more than I do. He looked up, his green eyes fierce but steady. But I'm not that kid anymore. I've got my own strength now, and I'm going to use it my way. Toshinori nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. I see that, and I respect it. A beat passed, and then Izuku spoke again, his voice quieter. You offered me one for all. I don't want it. I need to do this on my own. Toshinori's smile faded, replaced by a look of quiet understanding. I won't lie, I believe you'd wield it well. But I understand your choice, and I'll honor it. The two stood side by side, the conversation giving way to the sounds of the ocean. The stars above seemed brighter, their light casting a gentle glow over the beach. For a moment, there was no need for words. They simply watched the waves roll in, each lost in their thoughts, bound by a mutual respect that needed no further explanation. Izuku glanced at Toshinori, then back at the stars. It's peaceful here, he said softly. Makes it easier to think. Toshinori nodded. It does. This place, it's a good spot to find clarity. They lingered there, the night stretching on, as the waves whispered secrets only the sea could know. For Izuku, it was a moment of resolve, a quiet vow to carve his own path. For Toshinori, it was a reminder that heroism came in many forms, and the boy beside him was already on his way to proving it. The morning sun cast long shadows across Musudafu as Izuku Midoriya stepped out of his apartment, his UA uniform crisp and his tie neatly knotted. The first day of school buzzed with promise, a new chapter in his journey to become a hero. He checked his bag one last time, ensuring his notebooks and pens were secure, before his mother, Inko, stopped him at the door. Her eyes brimmed with pride and worry as she fussed over his appearance, smoothing his jacket. Izuku, do you have everything? Your lunch, your ID? She asked, her voice trembling with emotion. I'm good, Mom, Izuku reassured her, offering a warm smile. I'll see you later. With a quick hug, he stepped into the morning air, his heart pounding with anticipation. As he made his way toward UA, he spotted a familiar figure ahead, Katsuki Bakugo, his ash-blonde hair unmistakable even from a distance. Katsuki's mother, Mitsuki, was in the midst of a heated tirade, her voice carrying down the street. Katsuki, you better not blow up the classroom on your first day. She snapped, hands on her hips. When her sharp gaze landed on Izuku, her expression softened into a radiant smile. Before he could react, she swept him into a suffocating hug, his face inadvertently pressed into her cleavage. Heat surged through his body, his quirk threatening to activate from sheer embarrassment. Oh my God, Izuku! Mitsuki exclaimed, her voice dripping with affection. It's been forever since I last saw you. How've you been, sweetie? I've been doing good, and Mitsuki, Izuku stammered, his cheeks flaming as he tried to extricate himself. Mitsuki grabbed his face, pulling him close, her eyes glinting mischievously. I told you to call me by my name, Izuku. Or do I have to punish you? Her tone was teasing, but it sent a shiver down his spine. Punish me, Izuku squeaked, his voice cracking. She giggled, a sound both playful and terrifying, until Katsuki intervened, grabbing Izuku's collar and yanking him away. All right, enough of this, Katsuki growled, his patience clearly frayed. We've wasted enough time. We're going, Mom. See you later. Mitsuki waved, her voice sing-song. Bye, boys. Have a great day at school, and I'll see you soon, IZUKU. Izuku shuddered as they walked away, casting a wary glance at Katsuki. Your mom's intense, he muttered. Katsuki snorted, shoving his hands into his pockets. Don't even start, man. Ever since Dad pulled that stunt, she's been leaning on your mom and you for support. Oh, shit, he stopped, narrowing his eyes. If you even think about banging my mom, you're dead, nerd. Izuku's jaw dropped, his face turning scarlet. Dude, what the hell? Why would I even think that? Katsuki smirked, clearly enjoying his discomfort. 'Cause you're a cinnamon roll, Izuku. A goddamn cinnamon roll. What the fuck, man? Izuku spluttered, his voice a mix of exasperation and disbelief. The conversation died as they boarded the train to UA, the silence between them comfortable yet charged with their shared history. By the time they reached the towering gates of the academy, the weight of the moment settled over them. They were here, at the precipice of their dreams. Inside Class 1A, the room buzzed with new faces and nervous energy. Katsuki claimed a desk, propping his feet up with his usual swagger, while Izuku scanned the room, his calculated specs activating instinctively. Data flickered across his vision. Names, quirks, minor details about his classmates. His attention was interrupted by a sharp voice. You there. A tall, bespectacled boy barked, pointing at Katsuki. Remove your feet from the desk. It's highly disrespectful. Katsuki's crimson eyes flicked toward him, unimpressed, and he leaned back further, ignoring the demand. The boy's face reddened, his indignation growing. Izuku's specs identified him. Tenya Iida, quirk, engine. A stickler for rules. Izuku sighed, stepping forward. Hey, rusted pipe fucker, he said, his voice low and cutting. Stop trying to boss people around. Katsuki barked a laugh, nearly falling out of his chair, while Iida's glare snapped to Izuku. That's incredibly disrespectful, Iida snapped, adjusting his glasses. For someone like you to be admitted, UA must have lowered its standards, allowing riffraff to pollute this sacred institution. Izuku and Katsuki's glares darkened, the air crackling with tension. Iida took an involuntary step back as the two advanced, their fists steaming with heat and sparks. Hey, bro, Izuku said, his voice dangerously calm. Yeah, cool, Katsuki replied, his smirk mirroring Izuku's. Suddenly, I'm really pissed off, Izuku said, his golden eyes glinting. Funny, I'm feeling the same, Katsuki growled, cracking his knuckles. Before they could close the distance, a blur of motion slammed into Izuku, knocking him to the ground. A familiar giggle rang out as he blinked up at Ochako Uraraka, who scrambled to her feet, her cheeks flushed. Oops, sorry, she said, offering a hand. Didn't mean to tackle you. Izuku groaned, accepting her help. I'm glad you're in this class, Ochako, but did you have to hit me in the gut? She pouted, her hands on her hips. I said I'm sorry. To emphasize her point, she gently grabbed his cheeks, stretching them playfully. Forgive me, okay. Ow, ow, okay. Izuku laughed, swatting her hands away. Her playful punches followed, each one light but endearing, until she stopped, her smile softening. I'm really happy we're in the same class, Midoriya. That thing you did with the 0-pointer. You went blam, blam, and then, boom. Shouting, incinerate, like a total badass. Izuku chuckled, rubbing his neck, while Katsuki shot him a look. What? Izuku asked, raising an eyebrow. Katsuki's smirk widened. You're ditching me for round cheeks now. Dude, don't make it weird, Izuku said, his voice flat but amused. Katsuki leaned closer, his grin devilish. You know, if my mom finds out you're cozying up with someone else, she'll. No, no, no. Izuku cut him off, his eyes wide. Don't even go there. I still have nightmares from when we were 10, man. I couldn't sleep for a week after she. He shuddered, the memory of Mitsuki's overbearing affection haunting him. Katsuki cackled. Yeah, good times. Are you fucking kidding me right now? Izuku snapped, exasperated. Before their banter could escalate, a low voice cut through the room. If you're here to hunt for buddies, do it elsewhere. The trio turned to see a man in a yellow sleeping bag sprawled on the floor, sipping from a juice carton. His disheveled black hair and tired eyes gave him a haggard appearance. This is the Department of Heroics, he said, his tone flat as he took another sip. Standing, he unzipped the sleeping bag, revealing a black jumpsuit and a scarf of white bandages around his neck. It took you all 8 seconds to quiet down, he said, his gaze sweeping the room. Life is short, kids. You're all lacking common sense. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. Pleasure meeting you. The class, save for IZUKU, gasped in unison. He's our homeroom teacher, a student whispered. Aizawa reached into his sleeping bag, pulling out a stack of gym uniforms. Wear these, immediately, then shove off to the PE grounds. Izuku's eyes narrowed, his voice a low mutter. One word for this guy, bitch. Under the bright morning sun, Class 1A stood in their PE uniforms on the UA training grounds, the air thick with tension. Their homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa, surveyed them with a disinterested expression, his tired eyes betraying a sharp scrutiny. A quirk assessment test, the students exclaimed in unison, their voices a mix of shock and excitement. Ochako Uraraka, her brown eyes wide, raised a hand. But what about the entrance ceremony? Or the guidance counselor meeting? Aizawa's gaze didn't waver, his tone dry. If you're aiming to be heroes, we don't have time for pointless formalities. You know UA's reputation for freedom on campus. That liberty extends to us teachers as well. He paced slowly, his scarf swaying. Those physical tests you took in middle school, softball throws, seated toe touches, were done without quirks. The country hasn't standardized records or tracked average performance for quirk-enhanced tests. His eyes landed on Katsuki Bakugo, who leaned casually against a post. Bakugo, what was your softball throw distance in middle school? 67 meters, Katsuki replied, his voice brimming with confidence. Aizawa tossed him a ball, his expression unchanging. Try it with your quirk this time. Stay within the circle. Do whatever you want, just don't hold back. Katsuki caught the ball, his crimson eyes flicking to Izuku Midoriya, who gave him an encouraging thumbs up. A smirk curled Katsuki's lips. Got it. He stepped into the circle, his palm sparking. I'll channel some explosive force into my arm, then tweak the throw with a shockwave for extra kick. His smirk widened as he reared back. Die. The ball rocketed skyward, propelled by a deafening blast. Izuku watched, stifling a chuckle at Katsuki's dramatic flair. As the dust settled, Katsuki turned, brushing his hands. That's how it's done. Izuku grinned, his golden eyes glinting. Not bad for someone so over the top. Oh, you think you can top that, nerd? Katsuki shot back, his tone challenging but playful. You'll see, Izuku said, his voice steady. They fist bumped, their focus sharpening as Aizawa held up his device, displaying Katsuki's score, 705.2 meters. A student with spiky red hair, Eijiro Kirishima, whistled. 705 meters. That's unreal. A girl with pink skin, Mina Ishido, clapped her hands. That looked like a blast. So fun. Another student, Denki Kaminari, grinned. We get to use our quirks for real. This is why I came to UA. Aizawa's expression darkened, silencing the chatter. Fun, you say. Fine. The student with the lowest total points in these tests will be deemed hopeless and expelled on the spot. The class froze, gasps echoing. Izuku and Katsuki exchanged a glance, their resolve unspoken but ironclad. Aizawa's voice grew colder. Your so-called freedom means we teachers can dismiss students as we see fit. Welcome to the Department of Heroics. The quirk assessment test began, a series of challenges designed to push their limits. Izuku excelled, his quirk a perfect blend of power and precision. In the 50-meter dash, he ignited Heat Blaster in his soles, blazing across the finish line in a mere second, leaving scorched tracks. The standing long jump saw him clear the entire field with a single, heat-propelled leap. During side steps, he moved relentlessly, only stopping when Aizawa called time. In every test, grip strength, sit-ups, endurance, he claimed first, his fast healing countering fatigue, his calculated specs guiding his every move. The final test was the softball throw, and Aizawa called Izuku last. He stepped forward, fist-bumping Katsuki, who smirked. Show him, nerd. Tenya Iida, adjusting his glasses, leaned toward Katsuki. Midoriya's remarkable. I'm curious to see how he performs here. Katsuki snorted, his eyes gleaming. Just watch, 4 eyes. The nerd's about to school you. Izuku took a deep breath, steam curling from his body as he gripped the ball. His metallic hand shimmered, the slits on his chest glowing faintly. Let's do this, he muttered, preparing to unleash heavy artillery. A sudden alert flashed through his mind. Calculated specs has detected quirk usage targeting the user. Heat blaster disabled. Izuku's eyes narrowed, his voice a low growl. This jerk. He threw the ball with raw strength, no quirk to aid him. The device beeped. 46 meters. Izuku's glare snapped to Aizawa, who stood with his eyes glowing red, his scarf floating. I erased your quirk, Aizawa said, his tone icy. The judges at the entrance exam were too lenient. Someone like you, with that reckless power, shouldn't be here. Izuku's fists clenched, his glare intensifying. So, what's your excuse, Eraser Hero, Eraser Head? Aizawa's eyes widened, shock flickering across his face. The class murmured, confused. Eraser, who's that? Honta Siro whispered. Suyu Asui tilted her head. I've heard of him. He's an underground hero, keeps out of the spotlight. From a distance, All Might, observing in his frail form, muttered to himself. Aizawa avoids the media, thinks it interferes with our work. He's got no patience for spotlight heroes like me. Aizawa's gaze hardened, his voice cutting. You're not ready, Midoriya. There's a dangerous glint in your eyes, like you'll hurt those around you. Izuku's voice was steady, defiant. Are you done, you insolent? Aizawa began, but Izuku cut him off. If you're finished, I'd like to complete my test. Stop erasing my quirk, or I'll make you regret it. His words carried a quiet menace, his golden eyes flashing. The class gasped, and even Aizawa took a step back, sweat beading on his brow. Fine, he said, his voice tight. I've restored your quirk. Take your throw. Get it over with. Izuku picked up the ball, twirling it casually, his expression unreadable. Aizawa watched, his thoughts racing. Is he taking this seriously, or will he flop? Either way, he doesn't belong here. Asterisk. Izuku glanced at Katsuki, who nodded, a silent signal of trust. A smirk spread across Izuku's face as he gripped the ball, his arm glowing with heat. With a shout of, "Incinerate!" he hurled it, a superheated blast propelling the ball into the sky. Dust swirled around them, and when it cleared, Aizawa's device displayed an infinity symbol. The class stared, awestruck. Who is this guy? Mina whispered, her eyes wide. Katsuki chuckled, nudging Izuku. Damn, nerd, you held back and still pulled that off. Bet they got the message. A soft voice spoke up, its tone cool and measured. Izuku Midoriya, Shoto Todoroki, his half-red, half-white hair unmistakable, studied Izuku with quiet intensity. All Might, still watching from afar, smiled faintly. Young Midoriya, you're truly remarkable. Aizawa, recovering his composure, addressed the class. That concludes the test. Results will be posted tomorrow. Don't slack off. His eyes lingered on Izuku, a mix of wariness and intrigue. As the students dispersed, Ochako bounded over, her smile radiant. Midoriya, that was incredible. You totally showed him. Izuku scratched his neck, embarrassed. Just did what I had to. Katsuki smirked, slinging an arm around Izuku's shoulders. Told ya, round cheeks. The nerds got game. Ochako puffed out her cheeks. Stop calling me that, Bakugo. Make me. Katsuki shot back, grinning. Izuku laughed, the tension easing. Come on, you two. Let's grab something to eat. I'm starving. As they walked off, the trio's banter filled the air, their bond a steady anchor. But in the back of Izuku's mind, the cryptic voice lingered, its warning about extreme anger, a shadow he couldn't shake. For now, he pushed it aside, focusing on the friends, his chosen family, who stood by him as they stepped into the unknown of UA's hero course. The first few days at UA, high school unfolded with a deceptive sense of normalcy, as if it were any other high school. Morning classes covered standard subjects, mathematics taught by the multi-limbed pro-hero ectoplasm, English led by the boisterous present Mike, and classical Japanese under another hero's stern guidance. The only distinction was the instructors, pro-heroes whose presence lent an air of prestige to otherwise mundane lessons. For Class 1A, reactions varied. Mina Ishido, Denki Kaminari, Honta Siro, and Toru Hagakuri trudged to the cafeteria at lunch, visibly drained by the academic rigor. Others, like Momo Yaoyorozu, Tenya Iida, Katsuki Bakugo, and Izuku Midoriya, navigated the coursework with ease, their focus unshaken. While most of Class 1A enjoyed their meals in the bustling cafeteria, IZUKU slipped away to an unused classroom, its pristine condition a testament to UA's meticulous upkeep despite its disuse. He needed solitude to grapple with his quirk's mysteries. Activating it, he felt the familiar metallic sheen coat his arms, steam curling from his skin as the robotic voice in his mind recited his abilities. Feature number 1. Heat Blaster. The user can emit concentrated heat from palms and soles, channeling it through arms and legs with adjustable intensity. Overuse risks overheating, disabling the feature until the user cools. Feature number 2. Fast Healing. Enables the user to mend minor or severe injuries on themselves or others. Drawback. Temporary numbness in the affected area. Feature number 3. Calculated Specs. Grants heightened awareness of dangers within the user's field of vision, enhancing tactical instincts. Feature number 4. Heavy Artillery. Allows deployment of high destruction weapons. Primary function. Incinerate. Secondary function. Unavailable. N-E times TUEWI acute LLBE acute AVIBLEUNTUSRSANGE grave RHOWSEXTME grave LEVELS. ... Fey, your ... D question mark. On question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark. Asterisk. The fifth function consumed IZUKU's thoughts, its cryptic nature gnawing at him. No matter how he probed, it remained an enigma, its reference to extreme anger, both intriguing and unsettling. He sighed, muttering, "What's the key? A code, a trigger, what the hell is this thing? Struggling with your quirk, nerd." Katsuki's voice cut through, sharp but familiar, as he leaned against the classroom doorway. IZUKU glanced up, deactivating his quirk, the metallic sheen fading from his arms. "Something like that. I'll crack it eventually." Katsuki raised an eyebrow but didn't press, gesturing toward the door. "Come on, let's eat before Round Cheeks steals all the good stuff." IZUKU nodded, grabbing his bag and following Katsuki back to the cafeteria, unaware of a hidden camera tracking his every move from a corner of the room. Lunch ended, and Class 1A returned to their classroom, buzzing with curiosity about their afternoon heroics lesson. "What do you think they've got planned?" Eijiro Kirishima asked, cracking his knuckles. "Hopefully something worth our time," Honta Siro replied, leaning back in his chair. "Aizawa-sensei said teachers have free rein here, so it could be anything." Momo Yaoyorozu tapped her chin thoughtfully. "They didn't specify who's teaching this class. It's intriguing, isn't it?" While the others speculated, IZUKU hunched over his notebook, scribbling furiously. His pen danced across the pages, detailing his quirk's functions and theorizing new ones, perhaps energy absorption or enhanced strength. His focus was absolute, a shield against the unease he felt about the day's next event. The door slammed open, and All Might strode in, his Silver Age costume gleaming, his grin as radiant as ever. "I am here," entering like a normal person. The class erupted. "It's All Might," Kirishima shouted, his eyes wide. "This is gonna be epic," Kaminari added, practically bouncing. Suyu tilted her head, her voice calm. "Is that his Silver Age costume? Interesting choice." IZUKU paused, his pen hovering. Despite the respect he held for All Might, forged through their beachside conversation and IZUKU's healing of his injury, an unease lingered. The hero's offer of one for all still stung, a reminder of the doubt All Might once held. IZUKU lowered his gaze, his expression guarded. Ochako, seated a few desks away, noticed the shift in his demeanor. Her brow furrowed with concern. Katsuki, too, caught it, his usual smirk softening into something protective. All Might strode to the front, hands on hips. "Greetings, students. I'll be guiding you toward the true essence of heroism. Today's lesson: battle training." Battle. Katsuki's grin widened, his fist sparking with anticipation. "Training," IZUKU thought, his mind racing with possibilities. "But," All Might continued, his voice booming, "a hero needs the right attire." He pressed a remote, and the back wall slid open, revealing numbered cases. "These contain your hero costumes, tailored to your designs. Suit up and meet me at Training Ground Beta." The students grabbed their cases, excitement palpable, and filed out to the locker rooms. IZUKU lingered, stretching his arms before picking up his case. As he stepped into the hall, a familiar figure waited, her warm smile easing his tension. "Why do you think you can just wait for me like that?" IZUKU teased, a grin tugging at his lips as Ochako grabbed his arm, giggling. Her laughter faltered, her eyes serious. "Because you deserve someone looking out for you, IZUKU." "I was worried. Want to talk about it?" IZUKU's breath caught. No one his age, especially not a girl, had ever shown such genuine concern. At his old school, he'd shut himself off from peers, scarred by their cruelty. But Katsuki's transformation over the past months, and now Ochako's kindness, cracked that barrier. She'd seen him at his lowest and still reached out, making him feel whole. He leaned forward, their foreheads touching, his golden eyes meeting her brown ones. Her cheeks flushed at the closeness, but she held his gaze. "I'll be fine, Ochako," he said softly. "No need to worry." She frowned, unconvinced, but his warm smile softened her doubts, though a flicker of concern remained. They walked to the locker rooms together, a quiet understanding between them. "New function will commence in 10 minutes. The robotic voice startled IZUKU, but he masked his surprise, focusing on the task ahead. The training ground buzzed with electric anticipation as All Might's voice boomed, his enthusiasm a wildfire igniting Class 1A. "Clothes make the pros, young heroes, and you're living proof," he declared, arms wide as the students emerged from the tunnel, their hero costumes gleaming with individuality and purpose. "From this moment, you're heroes in training." All Might's grin was infectious, his Silver Age costume catching the sunlight. "You look incredible, ready to dive in, you budding champions." Katsuki Bakugo, his grenade-gauntleted arms crossed, smirked, scanning the crowd. "Where's that damn nerd?" he thought, itching for a challenge. Ochako Uraraka, her skin-tight suit hugging her frame, glanced back at the tunnel, her curiosity drawing others' attention. Metallic footsteps echoed, growing louder, until a figure stepped into view. The class froze, eyes wide, as Izuku Midoriya appeared, his costume a masterpiece of function and intimidation. A black and gray bodysuit, reinforced with a dent-resistant material, hugged his frame, its turtleneck design accented by gold. 6 glowing slits pulsed across his chest, steam curling from them, while a black belt with a bold buckle anchored his military-style pants and metallic-soled boots. His golden irises gleamed against pitch-black sclera, his green hair spiked rather than curled, radiating a fierce aura. Even All Might blinked, momentarily stunned. "Young Midoriya, that's quite the ensemble," he said, recovering his grin. Ochako approached, her smile bright. "Wow, Midoriya, I almost didn't recognize you. Except, you know, the green hair gives it away." Izuku returned a shy grin, his cheeks tinged pink. "Thanks, Ochako. I wanted something ready for anything." "You look awesome too," she laughed, scratching her head. "I should have been clearer with my design. This suit's so tight, it's not really me." Izuku raised an eyebrow, wondering who'd crafted her costume, when Katsuki slung an arm around his neck, pulling him into a mock chokehold. "Damn nerd, you actually went with that idea. Total badass move." Izuku chuckled, prying himself free. "You're the one who said it'd suit me, Katsuki. I needed to show everyone what I'm about." Ochako giggled at their banter, while Izuku pouted playfully before flashing a warm smile. A grumble came from nearby, Denki Kaminari, muttering under his breath. "Why's a guy like him chatting up someone like her?" All Might clapped his hands, drawing attention. "Time for combat training." Tenya Iida, his armor gleaming like a futuristic knight, raised a hand. "Sir, are we using the mock city again? Urban battles like the entrance exam?" "Not quite, young Iida," All Might replied, his voice brimming with energy. "We're stepping it up. Most villain fights you see on TV are outdoors, but the worst criminals lurk indoors, backroom deals, home invasions, secret lairs. Smart villains stay hidden. You'll split into hero and villain teams for 2-on-2 indoor battles." Tsuyu Asui tilted her head. "That sounds intense. Isn't it a bit advanced?" All Might's grin didn't falter. "The best training happens in the heat of battle. But be warned. You're facing people, not robots. Strategy matters." Questions erupted. "Who decides the winner, sir?" Momo Yaoyorozu asked. "How much damage can we do?" Eijiro Kirishima added, grinning. "Seriously, dude, going straight for violence. Honta Zero teased. It's just a question. Hiroshima shot back, laughing. Will losers get expelled like Aizawa threatened? Mina Ishido asked nervously. Are teams random or skill-based? Shoto Todoroki's cool voice cut through. My cape's fabulous, isn't it? Aoyama smirked, twirling. All Might raised a hand, chuckling. Hold on, I'm not done. He pulled out a script, glancing at it briefly, prompting a sigh from IZUKU. He's the #1 hero, but is he really teacher material? IZUKU thought, his respect for All Might tempered by doubt. Here's the scenario, All Might continued. The villains have hidden a nuclear missile in their hideout. Heroes must capture the villains or secure the weapon. Villains win by protecting the payload or capturing the heroes. Time's limited, and teams are chosen by lots. Iida frowned. Isn't there a better method? IZUKU stepped forward, his voice calm. Pros often team up with strangers from other agencies, Iida. Random draws mimic that. Iida nodded, bowing slightly. You're right, life's unpredictable. My apologies. No worries. All Might boomed. Let's draw. IZUKU drew Team A, feeling a gentle weight against him. He turned to see Ochako, her cheeky grin lighting up her face. What are the odds? We're teammates. He resisted the urge to pinch her cheeks, her adorableness almost overwhelming. Let's make it count, Ochako, he said, her hand slipping into his, warm and steady. All Might announced, Team A, heroes. Team D, villains. Everyone else, to the monitor room. Yes, sir, the class shouted, except for IZUKU, who studied a blueprint, and Katsuki, who growled softly. All Might addressed the villains. Young Iida, young Bakugo, embrace the villain role. Think like evildoers. Got it, Iida replied, his tone resolute. Understood, Katsuki said, his voice low but eager. All Might added, if it gets too intense, I'll intervene. Inside the mock building, Iida and Katsuki stood before the fake nuclear weapon. Iida adjusted his glasses, his voice heavy. It's unsettling to play the villain, even in training. Katsuki, taking deep breaths, stared at his hands. Yeah, well, this is my first real fight with IZUKU. Iida tilted his head. You and Midoriya are childhood friends, aren't you? That explains his colorful language. Katsuki laughed, a rare warmth in it. My bad, I guess. But I'm pumped for this. Why so eager? Iida pressed, curious. Katsuki's eyes narrowed, his fist clenching, steam rising. IZUKU forgave me, but I've got work to do. This fight's my chance to show him, not with words but actions. He smirked. We're winning this. Outside, IZUKU and Ochako pored over the blueprint, their expressions focused. We've got the layout down, Ochako said. What's the plan? IZUKU tapped his chin. Katsuki's coming for me like a predator hunting prey. We'll split them up. I'll bait him, since we go way back. You handle Iida. Ochako nodded, then paused. Iida might try to counter my quirk. I need to touch things to negate gravity, so I'll need to be quick. Hey, IZUKU. He met her gaze. Yeah, let's win this. Her voice was fierce, her eyes blazing. He chuckled, his own determination flaring. That's the goal. His eyes glowed gold as calculated specs activated, sharpening his senses. All Might's voice crackled through. Indoor combat training begins now. Team A, Team D, show us what you've got. IZUKU and Ochako entered the building, moving cautiously. Stay sharp, Ochako whispered. They could ambush us. If it's Katsuki, he's not teaming up with Iida, IZUKU replied, his specs scanning. He froze, grabbing Ochako as an explosion erupted where they'd stood, Katsuki's shadow looming through the smoke. You okay? IZUKU asked, his voice urgent. I'm good, Ochako replied, steadying herself. You called it. He's alone. Katsuki swiped the smoke away, his glare locking onto IZUKU. What's wrong, nerd? Too scared to face me? IZUKU smirked, unfazed. Scared? Nah, but thanks for the concern, you jerk. In the monitor room, the class watched, riveted. He almost had them. Hiroshima exclaimed. Cheap sneak attack, Zero scoffed. Not cool, Bakugo. It's a solid tactic, Todoroki said coolly. He's playing the villain well. He didn't land it, Yaoyorozu noted. Midoriya's quick. Look at him go. Mina cheered. Katsuki charged, shouting, I won't mess you up too bad, just enough. He fired a blast, but Izuku dodged, slamming an elbow into Katsuki's gut. The blonde gasped, pain flashing across his face. Izuku followed with a handstand, kicking Katsuki's jaw, sending him crashing into a wall. Ochako's eyes widened. Those moves are unreal. She caught Izuku's glance, nodding, and sprinted off to find Iida. Katsuki lunged toward her, but Izuku intercepted. Your fights with me, Pomeranian. Katsuki chuckled, wiping his mouth. Fine by me. Let's see how far we've come, Izuku. Wouldn't want it any other way, Izuku shot back, his stance ready. Katsuki propelled himself forward with small explosions, aiming blasts at Izuku, who leapt clear, his specs predicting the attacks. It's got a limit, Katsuki thought, I just need to find it. But his hesitation cost him. Izuku's fist slammed into his back, a cry of backbreaker echoing as Katsuki hit the floor. Izuku grabbed his leg, dragging him, but Katsuki fired a blast, forcing Izuku back unharmed. Katsuki stood, sweat dripping. Now I'm fired up, he roared, boosting his speed with a larger explosion. Izuku matched him, using Heat Blaster to propel forward, spinning to deliver a powerful kick. Katsuki blocked with his gauntlets, the force reverberating through him. Damn, you're strategizing hard, Katsuki muttered. Predicting my moves, huh? I'm not done, Izuku. Katsuki shouted, ignoring Iida's voice crackling through his comms. Bakugo, report, what's happening? Guard the damn bomb, Katsuki snapped. Stick to the plan. He charged, landing a surprise punch to Izuku's gut, the explosion pushing him back. Before Izuku could recover, Katsuki's fist connected with his chin, sending him crashing into the ceiling, cracks spider webbing outward. Katsuki raised his arms, a self-congratulatory grin spreading as he unleashed a massive blast, grazing Izuku with scratches. Izuku landed, wiping blood from his lip. All right, Katsuki, game on. He surged forward with Heat Blaster, matching Katsuki's explosive charge. Their blows clashed. Punches, kicks, heat against fire, each strike tearing at their costumes, injuries mounting but neither yielding. The monitor room was silent, the class mesmerized. Is that all, Izuku? Katsuki taunted, dodging a punch. Thought you were the great Midoriya. Izuku's fist connected with Katsuki's cheek, followed by a gut punch that doubled him over. Keep yapping, and I'll smack you senseless, Izuku said, his voice calm but fierce. No more words, Katsuki. Bring your best. Katsuki spat blood, grinning. You're right. Actions it is, Izuku. Izuku's faceplate formed, his eyes glowing brighter. Bring it, Kacchan. Katsuki's smirk mirrored his, and they charged, their voices echoing. Izuku, Katsuki, I'm winning this. The clash was a symphony of power, their resolve unbreakable, the outcome hanging in the balance as the training ground trembled with their ferocity. Ochako Uraraka sprinted up the stairwell of the mock building, her heart pounding as she scanned for the fake nuclear weapon and Tenya Iida. Her skin-tight hero costume, though not her ideal choice, allowed fluid movement as she climbed, her senses sharp. Suddenly, a blur of speed halted before her, forcing her to leap back. Behold, hero, Iida's voice boomed, his futuristic armor gleaming as he struck a dramatic pose. I, the embodiment of villainy, shall end you. Ochako stifled a laugh, his theatrical villain act almost comical. But she snapped to attention, dodging a swift kick from Iida's engine-powered legs. She bolted down a corridor, tapping her earpiece. Izuku, I've got trouble. Downstairs, Izuku Midoriya ducked behind a wall, his breath ragged as he evaded Katsuki Bakugo's relentless explosions. Heat Blaster propelled him out of harm's way, but the strain was mounting. Calculated specs is still cooling down, he thought, frustration bubbling. Heat waves nearing its limit, and heavy artillery's too risky indoors. Damn, being the bait was a dumb call. His earpiece crackled, Ochako's voice urgent. Izuku, I'm fighting Iida. He's going full evil overlord, but I don't know where the bomb is. Izuku's eyes narrowed, his mind racing. Where are you, Ochako? Third floor, almost at the fourth. She replied, her voice spiking as Iida's engines roared. He ambushed me. Okay. Stall the tin can, Izuku said, his tone steady despite the chaos. I'm below you, probably near the second floor. The bomb's likely on the 4th or 5th. Hold him off, and I'll get there. Got it, Ochako said, determination lacing her words. What's your plan? I'll figure it out, Izuku replied, dodging another blast from Katsuki. Just keep Iida busy. Ochako nodded, though he couldn't see, and faced Iida, who charged again. You won't escape, hero. Iida bellowed, his engines flaring. Big talk for a villain. Ochako shot back, touching a nearby pipe and making it weightless. She hurled it, forcing Iida to swerve, his speed disrupted. Below, Izuku blocked a sudden punch from Katsuki, crossing his arms to absorb the impact. The force sent him crashing into a wall, spiderweb cracks spreading behind him. He groaned, shaking off the pain, and locked eyes with Katsuki's smug grin. What's wrong, hero? Katsuki taunted, cracking his knuckles. All talk and no fight. Izuku smirked, his golden irises flaring as he countered with a swift punch to Katsuki's stomach. Talk's cheap, Katsuki, he said, his voice sharp. Katsuki coughed, blood flecking his lips, pain radiating through him. Damn, that stings, he thought, but before he could recover, Izuku yanked him off the ground, slamming him down with a bone-rattling thud. That's where you belong, eating dirt, Izuku said, his eyes glowing as calculated specs reactivated. Katsuki struggled to his feet, blood dripping from a cut on his cheek. I ain't finished, he growled, raising his arm. You used to scribble about my quirk, Izuku. So you know how it works. My nitro sweat's stored in this gauntlet, and when I crank it up. Izuku's eyes widened as Katsuki pulled the pin. Are you insane? He shouted, time slowing as his specs went into overdrive, searching for a way out. New feature unlocked for user Izuku Midoriya, defense mechanism. Activating to counter immediate threat. A massive explosion erupted, shaking the building, debris flying. In the monitor room, the class gasped. That's too much, Mina Ashido cried. This is supposed to be training. All Might clenched his fists, cursing his slow reaction. Young Bakugo, that was reckless. Katsuki, clutching his cracked gauntlet, scanned the smoke. Come on, nerd, I know that didn't take you out. He shouted, his voice defiant. A fist rocketed through the haze, slamming into Katsuki's jaw with such force he nearly blacked out, blood spraying as he hit the ground. Izuku emerged, steam curling from his unscathed body, his eyes blazing. Lucky for me, a new feature kicked in, dumbass. He grabbed Katsuki's arm, hauling him up. Get up, I know you've got more. Katsuki grinned, wiping blood from his chin. You bet I do. Saved your sorry ass, didn't I? Izuku laughed, his expression shifting to deadly focus. Hope you've got gas left, Katsuki, 'cause I'm not done. The two charged, fists and explosions colliding in a frenzy of blows. The monitor room was silent, the class awestruck by their speed and ferocity. Katsuki felt the weight of Izuku's strikes, each one calculated, pushing him back. This guy's unreal, he thought, firing a blast only for Izuku to catch it, his grip unyielding. With his faceplate retracted, Izuku smirked. Time's up, Kachin. He drove an elbow into Katsuki's chest, staggering him, then grabbed his arm, slamming him to the ground with a force that knocked him out cold. Sorry, Katsuki, Izuku said, deactivating his specs, his voice soft but firm. It's just combat. His legs buckled, fatigue crashing over him, his arms heavy. But duty called. He activated fast healing, vitality surging, restoring him to near peak. Tapping his earpiece, he said, Ochako, I'm coming. Get ready. His faceplate snapped back on, and with heat wave igniting his soles, he rocketed upward, leaving a trail of scorched air. The mock building trembled from Katsuki's earlier explosion, its shockwaves disrupting Tenya Iida's focus just enough for Ochako Uraraka to slip past him. She raced up the stairwell, her boots pounding, aiming for the top floor where she suspected the fake nuclear weapon lay. But Iida's speed was unmatched. He intercepted her, engines roaring, forcing her to dodge a lightning-fast tackle. The bomb, clutched in his arms, remained just out of reach, and Ochako's lips pursed in frustration. Face it, hero, Iida bellowed, his villainous tone theatrical. You're outmatched. My position is unassailable, and your quirk's useless without objects to weaponize. Ochako couldn't help but snicker at his over-the-top performance, but her focus sharpened. She sprinted forward, only to see Iida lunge again. With a quick tap on herself, she activated her zero-gravity quirk, soaring into the air. "Guess you didn't know I can float myself," she taunted, smirking as she aimed for the bomb. Iida, undeterred, darted forward, relocating the weapon again. "As long as I keep my distance, you're powerless," he declared, his laugh echoing. "I'll outlast you until time runs out," Ochako growled, her patience thinning. Before she could counter, the door exploded off its hinges, revealing IZUKU Midoriya, steam billowing from his glowing chest slits, his golden eyes locked on Iida. "Hey, tin can," he called, his voice laced with a tired but fierce grin. "Your heavy hitter just got knocked out." Iida's eyes widened, but he reacted swiftly, clutching the bomb and speeding away. "You may be fast, Midoriya, but I'm unmatched," he boasted. "Your plans are futile, heroes." "Time's slipping away," Izuku laughed, his tone sharp. "Think again, Iida, I just filled this room with ammo." He gestured to the debris scattered from Katsuki's blast. Ochako's eyes lit up, her smirk mirroring Izuku's. She touched a pile of rubble, making rocks and a massive pillar float around her. "Ready for a show, villain?" she asked, hurling the barrage at Iida. In the monitor room, All Might and Class 1A watched, riveted. "She's using the environment," Momo Yaoyorozu exclaimed. "Brilliant." Iida weaved through the onslaught, his engine screaming, but Izuku flanked him, delivering a swift kick. Iida blocked with his arm, but the force sent him stumbling, the bomb slipping slightly. "Curse your tenacity," Iida shouted, scrambling to recover. Izuku cursed under his breath. The bomb was still in Iida's grip. He activated Heat Wave, boosting his speed to close the gap. As rocks pelted Iida, Izuku seized the moment, snatching the weapon and positioning himself protectively in front of it. "Defense mechanism activating," his quirk's voice announced, a shimmering barrier enveloping him and the bomb. Ochako touched the weapon, her quirk negating its weight. "Got it," she cried, securing it as Izuku's barrier held firm. All Might's voice thundered. "Hero team wins." Iida collapsed to his knees, his villain act in full force. "No, the weapon. Curse you, heroes," he wailed, his dramatics earning sweat drops from Izuku and Ochako. "He's really selling it," Ochako said, wiping her brow. "Almost too much," Izuku added, chuckling as he dropped the barrier. Exhaustion hit, and he crumpled to the ground, his vision blurring. Fast healing activated, numbness detected, sleep mode commencing. User will awaken in 1 hour at 100% capacity. "What the?" Izuku thought before darkness claimed him. Ochako knelt beside him, cradling his head in her lap, her fingers gently combing his spiky green hair. "You pushed too hard, dummy," she murmured, her voice soft but worried. Iida, dropping his villain persona, rushed over. "Is he all right?" "He'll be fine," Ochako said, her tone firm. "Just needs rest." Together, they carried Izuku to a stretcher, ensuring he and the still unconscious Katsuki were taken to Recovery Girls' Clinic. The class, still buzzing from the match, watched in awe. All Might's eyes lingered on Izuku, a mix of pride and concern flickering in them. "That boy's potential is staggering," he muttered. Inside Izuku's subconscious, gears churned, and a faint, trembling voice echoed, pained, scared, alone. It vanished as quickly as it came, leaving an unsettling chill. An hour later, Izuku stirred, the clinic's bright lights forcing him to squint. Sleep mode deactivated, body at 100%. His vision cleared, the pixelated distortion fading as he sat up, taking in the sterile room. Recovery Girl, her cane tapping, approached. "Feeling better, young man?" "Much," Izuku said, his voice steady. "Thanks, Recovery Girl. You had minor scrapes, but you were out longer than Bakugo," she noted, her tone curious. "Your quirk's something else." Izuku nodded, his thoughts on Katsuki's quicker recovery. He slid off the bed, wobbling slightly, and noticed the time. School was nearly over. Grabbing a UA.PE shirt, he thanked Recovery Girl and headed to the classroom, the chatter growing louder as he approached. The door slid open, and the room fell silent before erupting. "Midoriya, that was insane," Eijiro Kirishima shouted, rushing over. "I'm Kirishima, by the way." Those moves were so manly. Thanks, Izuku said, grinning. You're pretty tough yourself. What's your favorite food? Mina Ashido asked, bouncing forward. Mochi's my go-to, Izuku replied, only to be tackled by Ochako, who hugged him tightly. You scared me, going out like that, she said, her brown eyes searching his. You okay? He chuckled, setting her down gently. I'm good, Ochako, promise. She pouted but smiled, relieved. Izuku's gaze shifted to Katsuki, who leaned against a desk, smirking. Not bad, nerd, Katsuki said, his voice gruff but warm. But we're not done. Izuku mirrored his smirk. Wouldn't expect less, Kachin. The class buzzed around them, students introducing themselves. I'm Honta Siro, one said, grinning. That barrier thing was wild. Kyoka Jiro, another added, twirling her earphone jack. You've got some serious skills. Izuku nodded, taking it in, his heart swelling. Thanks, everyone. Means a lot. Ochako tugged his sleeve. You were amazing out there, Izuku. That new feature, how'd it feel? Weird, he admitted, his voice low. It just kicked in. Saved my skin. Katsuki snorted, crossing his arms. TCH, you and your fancy tricks. Next time, I'm blowing through that shield. Bring it, Izuku shot back, his eyes gleaming with challenge. Momo approached, her expression thoughtful. Your quirk's versatility is impressive, Midoriya. Have you always had that barrier? Nope, Izuku said, scratching his neck. It's new, still figuring it out. Fascinating, Shoto Todoroki said, his voice calm but curious. You adapt quickly. All Might entered, his presence commanding silence. Young heroes, today was a triumph. Midoriya, Uraraka, your teamwork was exemplary. Bakugo, Iida, you fought valiantly. Learn from this and grow. Iida bowed. Thank you, sir. I'll refine my strategy. Katsuki grunted, his eyes on Izuku. Next match, I'm taking you down. Looking forward to it, Izuku replied, his tone light but fierce. Ochako grinned, nudging him. We're a killer team, huh? The best, Izuku said, high-fiving her. As the bell rang, signaling the day's end, the class filed out, their voices a lively hum. Izuku lingered, his thoughts drifting to the faint voice in his subconscious, its fear haunting him. What's going on with you? He muttered, his hand brushing the glowing slits on his chest. Ochako paused at the door, turning back. You coming, Izuku? Yeah, he said, shaking off the unease. Let's grab some mochi on the way home. Her face lit up. You're on. Katsuki joined them, his smirk unwavering. Don't think this means you're off the hook, nerd. Wouldn't dream of it, Izuku said, his grin fierce. As they left, the trio's laughter echoed down the hall, their bond a blazing beacon against the mysteries of Izuku's quirk and the challenges awaiting them at UA. The buzz hit like a wildfire. Whispers turned to shouts echoing through the streets outside UA High. Reporters swarmed the gates like vultures, cameras flashing, microphones thrusting forward, turning the entrance into a battlefield. Students pushed through the chaos, hearts pounding, just trying to get inside. Have you seen this? He's become a teacher. One reporter barked into her phone, eyes wide with disbelief. A lanky student with messy hair dodged a microphone. You there? What kind of lessons does All Might teach? The reporter demanded, shoving closer. The kid shrugged, sweat beading on his forehead. Sorry, he doesn't teach me. The reporter zeroed in on another girl, her voice urgent. You there? Lend us some of your thoughts on what it was like having the symbol of peace standing before you at the podium of education. The girl blinked, flustered. My thoughts. He was really muscly. Undeterred, the reporter pressed on with a boy who looked too polished. What do you think of All Might's turn as teacher? He straightened up, words tumbling out like he'd rehearsed them. It redoubles my awareness of the fact that I'm enrolled where I can reap the rewards of the pinnacle of hero training. It goes without saying that his authority and mien are awe-inspiring, but so too are qualities such as his sense of humor. Now that we students will be constantly exposed to such an impressive role model, we will be able to study what one needs to possess in order to match the definition of a top hero, and furthermore. The reporter's eyes lit up. What do you think of All M? Wait, aren't you the kid from the sludge villain incident? Drop it, he snapped, face flushing red as he shoved past. The whole country was in a frenzy, Media hounds camped out for days, desperate for a scoop from All Might. But when they triggered UA's barriers, some high-tech force field humming to life, they were locked out cold. No entry without a student ID or special permission. The reporters fumed, faces twisted in rage, denied their golden interview. "This is bullshit," one yelled, pounding the invisible wall. "We have a right to know." Inside Class 1A, the air felt heavier. Aizawa stood at the front, his eyes bloodshot, voice flat but cutting deep. "Hope you're rested from yesterday's battle trial. I took the liberty of looking at your marks and evaluations. On that note, Bakugo, what you did was borderline uncalled for. You're wasting your own talent. If I see you pull something like that on your classmates or any student, I'll make sure you're out of here with just one word." Katsuki scratched the back of his head, scowling but nodding. "Yeah, I got it. Won't happen again." His voice was gruff, laced with that explosive temper barely leashed. Izuku reached over, patting Katsuki's head like he was some damn puppy. Katsuki shook it off violently. "The hell, I'm not a puppy, Deku." Aizawa's gaze shifted, softening just a fraction. "As for you, Midoriya, honestly, all I can say is good job, I guess. I saw in the footage what I wanted from the entrance exam, even if it was at the last second. But you put a lot of emphasis on hurting your classmate. Tone it down from now on, okay?" Izuku nodded, a shy grin breaking through. Katsuki shot him a blank stare, arms crossed. "Hey, don't even give me that look," Izuku muttered. Katsuki just grunted, silent as stone. "Okay, your silence isn't helpful," Izuku grumbled. "But now, let's get on with homeroom notices. I'm sorry to spring this on you all, but..." The class sweated bullets, imagining a pop quiz from hell. But Aizawa's words hit different. "Pick a class president." Excitement erupted. "I want it." "No, me." Voices overlapped in a chaotic roar, everyone vying for the spot. Lunchtime hit, and Izuku slumped at the table, head thudding against the wood. He groaned, raw frustration bubbling up. "Why me?" A giggle cut through his misery. He looked up. Ochako, sitting close, her eyes sparkling with amusement. Tenya Iida watched them, all stiff and proper. "I'm not cut out for this kind of role, you guys," Izuku said, forcing down a bite of lunch. The food tasted like heaven for a second, but reality crashed back in, heavy and unrelenting. "That's nonsense, Midoriya." Iida chopped the air with his hand, voice booming with conviction. "You're definitely qualified for leadership. You've got the guts and judgment when it counts, that's why I voted for you." Izuku chuckled, the motion easing the knot in his chest. "Wow, Iida, I thought for sure you wanted it, considering how you're wearing glasses." Ochako said. "I don't think that's a good reason, Ochako," Izuku said, sweat dropping at her logic. Iida nodded vigorously, like he'd cracked some code. Izuku turned to him, curiosity sparking. "By the way, Iida, I've been noticing something about you." "Huh, what do you mean?" Iida leaned in, glasses glinting. "The way you're so serious, even about the littlest things. You're in a family of heroes, aren't you?" Iida's eyes widened, shock rippling across his face. Ochako gasped too. "And considering your reaction, I'm right," Izuku said, smile turning sly, a smirk creeping in. "But since you're encouraging me to keep the role, maybe I should get serious, strict only with you, Iida." "What's with that smirk, Midoriya?" Iida yelped, voice cracking with panic. "Don't worry about my smirk. Worry about how I'm gonna be strict and dead serious with you, Tenya Iida." Iida paled, staring at Izuku, who shoveled lunch like nothing happened. Ochako saw right through it, sighing. "Don't worry, Iida, he's not being serious. I don't think he's joking, Uraraka," Iida whispered, voice trembling. Izuku paused, fork midway. Quote. "Maybe, maybe not." Then the siren blared, sharp, piercing, freezing everyone. "Security level 3 breached. Students, evacuate promptly." "What's security level 3? Iida demanded, chopping the air again. "It means someone's infiltrated the school grounds." A voice shouted from nearby. "Hasn't happened in 3 years, we gotta move." Panic exploded. Students collided in the halls, shoving, screaming, a stampede on the edge of disaster. "Damn, if this keeps up, there'll be injured kids," Izuku thought, heart racing. Gotta be the press causing this mess outside. Asterisk. A elbow slammed into his head. Pain flared, anger surging hot. Ow. Enough. Izuku pushed forward, legs coiling like springs. Heat wave exploded from his feet, propelling him into a massive leap. He hit the wall, feet sticking, grabbed a pipe, breath ragged. Raw fury boiled over. Hey, you childish fools. Quit losing your goddamn heads. It's just the press. Stop panicking. We're UA students, not elementary kids. Form an orderly line. OR so help me, you don't want me more pissed. Get to it now. His voice thundered, echoing like a hero's roar. The chaos died instantly, students straightening, filing in line. Police arrived, herding reporters back. Lunch ended, Izuku collapsing into his seat, sighing deep, chest heaving from the adrenaline crash. You were great back there, Midoriya. I'm impressed, Yaoyorozu said, voice warm. Izuku looked up, smiling wearily. Anyone could have done it. What I did, even you, Yaoyorozu. I know you were itching too, Iida. Iida stiffened, and Izuku burst out laughing, the tension shattering. But it faded fast. I wonder, how the hell did those reporters get through? Asterisk. His vision pixelated, glitching, world fracturing for seconds. Then normal. What the hell was that? He shook it off, heading to class, missing the voice in his head. New function available. Protocol DEMO. Activates at maximum in life or death situations for user Izuku Midoriya. Time limit. None. Wednesday, 12:50 p.m. The air in Class 1A's heroics classroom buzzed with anticipation. Aizawa stood at the front, his voice calm but heavy with purpose. For today's foundational heroics training, you'll be supervised by a 3-person team, me, All Might, and another. It's a rescue trial. Be the hero everyone needs, whether it's a flood, earthquake, or any disaster. Excitement sparked through the room, but Aizawa's glare cut it short. Don't get cocky. You can choose to wear your costumes or not. Some aren't suited for rescue, and the training area's far, so we're taking a bus. Get ready. In the locker room, students slipped into their hero gear. Izuku, already in his costume, leaned against a wall, sweat dripping down his face like he'd sprinted miles. Ochako frowned, stepping closer. Izuku, you okay? You look rough. Katsuki, nearby, crossed his arms. Yeah, what's with you, nerd? You sick or something? Izuku forced a grin, waving them off. I'm fine, really, just a lot on my mind. His voice lacked its usual spark, and neither Ochako nor Katsuki bought it. Before they could press, a tap on Izuku's shoulder made him turn. Momo Yaoyorozu, Class 1A's vice president, stood tall, her expression stern but concerned. You're overdoing it, Midoriya, she said, arms crossed. I told you to let me handle some of the class president duties. You're not invincible. Izuku gave a tired salute, his lips twitching into a half smile. I, Madam Vice President. Momo chuckled, but Ochako's eyes narrowed, watching the exchange. Katsuki just stared, his face blank. What the hell's going on here? Asterisk. Outside, Iida took charge, blowing a whistle that pierced the air. Form 2 orderly lines by your student numbers for smooth boarding. Izuku snatched the whistle, giving Iida a deadpan look. Iida, love the enthusiasm, but chill. Everyone, just get on the bus and sit wherever. Iida froze, stunned, but Izuku's firm pat on his shoulder softened the blow. Relax, man. On the bus, students settled in randomly, Iida slumping with a defeated sigh. So this is the seating for this bus type, he muttered, clenching his fist. Izuku laughed, shaking his head, but a tap on his shoulder snapped his attention. Tsuyu Asui's wide eyes met his, her expression curious but direct. Midoriya, I always say what's on my mind, so, can I ask about your quirk? She said, tilting her head. It seems like an emitter type from the combat training, but you also had that barrier. How does it work? Before Izuku could answer, Kirishima leaned over, sharp teeth flashing. Yeah, man, what's the deal? During the quirk assessment, it looked heat-based, but then in the 2v2 battle, those metal parts on your arms, gauntlets or something. Are you rocking multiple quirks? The question drew eyes, including a piercing stare from a girl with red and white hair. Izuku scratched his cheek, a thoughtful look crossing his face. You guys might think I have more than one quirk, but it's not like that. My powers, like a technology-based quirk. It gives me functions for specific tasks. I'm not sure that's the clearest answer, but it's all I've got. Does that help, Sue? Suyu nodded, satisfied, but others leaned closer, curiosity burning. Katsuki, sitting nearby, stayed silent, his eyes locked on Izuku. Before anyone could dig deeper, Aizawa's voice cut through. We're here. Get off. The unforeseen simulation joint, USJ, loomed before them, a massive dome built to mimic any disaster. Space Hero 13, a pro in disaster relief, stood waiting. Her voice, muffled by her helmet, carried weight as she addressed the class. Today, you'll learn to wield your quirks to save lives, not just fight. Heroes exist to protect, to pull people from danger. That's your focus. Her words landed hard, a reminder of the stakes. But before she could continue, a black portal tore open at the center of the USJ, swirling like a void. Dozens of villains poured out, their eyes glinting with malice. Gasps ripped through the class. Aizawa's expression darkened. This is real. 13. Protect the students. Now. He pulled his goggles down, ready to fight. A voice echoed from the portal, cold and mocking. Eraserhead in number 13. According to the teacher's curriculum we got yesterday, All Might was supposed to be here. And yet, Aizawa's eyes narrowed. They broke through UA's barriers. Asterisk. Another villain, his voice dripping with disappointment, stepped forward. Where is he? We went through all this trouble, rounded up this many of us, and the symbol of peace isn't here. I wonder, will he show if we kill the kids? The air turned thick with menace. Students froze, hearts pounding. But Izuku's eyes glowed faintly, his arms trembling as he stepped forward. Katsuki matched him, shoulder to shoulder, his palms sparking. The class felt the shift. 2 kids standing defiant against a storm. Threats detected across USJ facility. Initiating strategy analysis. 2 strategies available. Interference detected. Analysis incomplete. Izuku's head buzzed, the voice glitching, drowned by static. He clenched his fists, heart racing. Focus. We're not dying today. Asterisk. The USJ crackled with tension, the air thick with the stench of malice. Kurogiri's purple mist swirled, his voice cold and deliberate. 13 in Eraserhead, huh. The schedule we obtained said All Might was supposed to be here. Aizawa's jaw tightened, his scarf twitching. So the trespassing the other day was your doing, you scumbags. Tamura Shigaraki's raspy voice cut through, dripping with venom. Where is he? I dragged this whole crowd here for All Might, the symbol of peace. He's not here. Fine. Maybe he'll show if we slaughter a few kids. Izuku's fists clenched, knuckles white, his blood boiling. Kill my classmates to bait All Might. You piece of trash. You're the scum villains are made of. His heart pounded, fury igniting every nerve. He wouldn't let these monsters touch anyone. Steam hissed from his body, his eyes flaring gold as his arms shifted to metallic gauntlets. Katsuki stepped up beside him, palms sparking with tiny explosions, a wild grin on his face. Let's crush these bastards, Deku. Aizawa's hair floated, his scarf unfurling like a whip. Midoriya, Bakugo, stand down. I'll handle this. Stay with the others. Bullshit. Katsuki roared, fists sparking louder. You can't take them all alone. He's right. Izuku snapped, voice shaking with defiance. We're not just gonna sit back. Hiroshimi's voice broke through, stunned. Villains. Here. How'd they even get into a hero school? Momo turned to 13, urgency in her tone. Sensei. What about the trespasser sensors? Shouldn't they have gone off? 13 hesitated. We have them, but they didn't activate. Yoko Todoroki's voice was sharp, analytical. Are they only here, or across the whole school? If the sensors failed, someone's quirk is interfering. This place is isolated, perfect for an ambush during our class. They're not idiots. This was planned. Izuku nodded, his mind racing. She's right. The press chaos was a diversion. One of these creeps slipped in, stole the schedule. We should have seen it coming. His voice cracked with frustration, anger at himself for missing the signs. Aizawa's eyes flicked to Denki. 13. Start evacuation. Call the school, confirm they're safe. Someone's likely jamming the sensors with a radio wave quirk. Kaminari, use your quirk to contact the school. Got it. Denki pressed a hand to his earpiece, static crackling. Izuku's voice rose, desperate. Mr. Aizawa, you can't fight them alone. Your quirk's great for one-on-one, but this many. Eraserhead's style is capture, not frontal assault. You're at a disadvantage. Aizawa's gaze was steady. You can't be a pro with one trick, Midoriya. Izuku gritted his teeth, his mind screaming. That's not the point. My calculated specs show you can handle the small fry, but those three, especially that bird-faced freak, are trouble. If they gang up, you're screwed. Asterisk. 13, it's on you. Aizawa barked, then leapt down the stairs, scarf snapping as he dove into the mob. A villain with holes in his fingers smirked. Shooting squad, let's go. Another, with floating gray hair, scoffed. Intel said only 13 in All Might. Who's this guy? Doesn't matter. A third growled. He's alone. He's dead. Aizawa's eyes glowed red, his quirk activating. The shooter villain froze, fingers useless. My quirk. The bullets won't fire. The others faltered, their powers snuffed out. Aizawa's scarf lashed out, snaring all three, slamming them together with a sickening crunch. They dropped, out cold. Idiot. Another villain shouted. That's Eraserhead. He erases quirks by looking at you. A massive villain with extra arms charged. Can you erase heteromorphic quirks like mine? No, Aizawa admitted, dodging a swing and landing a brutal punch to the villain's face. But your type relies on close combat. He wrapped his scarf around the villain's leg, dodging another attack, countering with a kick. And I've trained for that. He hurled the villain into a group of goons, toppling them like bowling pins. I've got measures for guys like you. Tamura scratched his neck, irritated. He's strong in hand-to-hand, and those goggles hide who he's targeting. Makes it hard for a group to coordinate. I hate pro-heroes, he spat. The masses don't stand a chance. Izuku watched Aizawa dominate, heart pounding with awe and worry. A hand yanked him back. No time for gawking. Iida shouted. Get to the group. Izuku nodded, sprinting with Katsuki close behind. You got a plan, nerd? Katsuki asked, voice low. Izuku shook his head, frustration clawing at him. Need time to think, Katsuki. My functions are glitching. Can't get a read. As they neared the exit, purple mist surged, blocking their path. Kurogiri's voice was icy. You're not escaping. Aizawa cursed under his breath, mobbed by villains, unable to break free. Damn it, the mist guy slipped away. Asterisk. Kurogiri loomed. We are the League of Villains. We've come to Ua, the home of heroes, to end All Might's life. Izuku's eyes narrowed. You want to kill All Might? Good luck with that, creep. Kurogiri's tone was unbothered. He was supposed to be here. A change in plans. No matter. I have my role. 13 raised their hand, ready to unleash Black Hole, but Katsuki and Kirishima charged forward. Katsuki's explosion lit up the mist, Kirishima's hardened fist swinging. What the hell are you idiots doing? Izuku yelled, coughing through smoke. Kirishima taunted. Thought we'd lose to you, mist guy. Kurogiri emerged unscathed. Dangerous, but impressive. You students are golden eggs. Get back. 13 shouted. Kurogiri's mist expanded, encircling the class. My job is to scatter you and torture you to death. Warning. Calculated specs offline. Full shutdown initiated. 5 functions remain for user Izuku Midoriya. Izuku's visor vanished, his curse bitten back. He triggered Heat Wave aiming to blast clear and grab his classmates, but the mist was overwhelming. A portal formed, swallowing him whole, ripping him from the group. Damn it, he roared, tumbling into darkness, alone. Shipwreck zone. Izuku came out of the purple portal as he descended towards the water. When he opened his eyes, he realized that he was underwater. He deduced that he landed in the shipwreck zone. A warp. Is that his quirk? They want to kill All Might. What in the world is going on? What the hell? Izuku thought as he began to swim back up to the surface. However, he noticed something coming towards him. He saw that it was a villain with shark-like features, which was probably due to a fish mutant-type quirk. He was heading straight for Izuku at high speeds, not slowing down at all. Here I come. I don't have anything against you, but see ya. Izuku narrowed his eyes as they glowed as he used Heat Wave, with its second function activated. Heat Wave's second function, Turbine. As IZUKU sped toes RSX the water towards the shark villain. But right before either could deal their blow, Tsuyu came at the last second and kicked the shark villain away as she held Mineta in her arms. "Midoriya, ribbit," Tsuyu said as she wrapped IZUKU with her long tongue and dragged him out of the water. Tsuyu placed IZUKU on the boat carefully as Mineta said groggily, "For a frog, your boobs are pretty big." This caused the frog-like girl to blush in embarrassment as she threw Mineta on top of the boat roughly as he landed on the floor hard, very much unlike she did with IZUKU. IZUKU looked at Mineta while helping him up from the pain's landing he Jate delivered. As Tsuyu was climbing up the boat, IZUKU said, "Thanks for getting us on the boat, Tsu." Tsuyu simply nodded her head as she made it on the boat. "This has turned into a bad situation though," Tsuyu said referring to the fact that the entire class was split up in groups. "Yeah, they planned this right from the start. They split us up and separated us from the teachers so it would be easier to get rid of us. They were waiting to pounce," just as Todoroki said. IZUKU told them as he assessed their current predicament and had to admit that it was a pretty clever plan. But, it's not like they can actually kill All Might, right? Once All Might comes, he'll pound those guys to the ground," Mineta said confidently as he tried to lighten the mood. "Mineta, don't you think they are trying so hard because they have a way to kill him? Guys that strong just told us they are going to torture us to death, you know. I wonder if we'll be able to even survive until All Might arrives. Even if All Might comes, I wonder if we will all make it out in one piece," Tsuyu said as she herself didn't know if they were going to even to stay alive through all of this. Mineta began to sweat as he absorbed Tsuyu's words, Midoriya. "What the heck is that?" Mineta pointed towards the water. "Ribbit, you bastard, I'll kill you," the same shark villain from earlier shouted as this time he brought a couple of his friends along with him. Mineta screamed in horror, "There's a ton of them. Those guys have a way to defeat All Might. She's probably right about that. If I were a betting man, then I bet that the key to defeating All Might has something to do with that huge bird brain. They most likely want to kill him because he's the symbol of peace who keeps this superhuman society in balance and control. If he were to be killed, villains would be motivated to go out and commit crimes with no fear." IZUKU said mentally as he was still a bit conflicted with the hero, but he doesn't want him to die since he was back to hero mode since IZUKU healed him. If these villains have a way to defeat All Might, then right now, we must put a stop to whatever they're planning. By fighting and winning, IZUKU said with courage and determination as clenched his fist that had a shiny with his eyes being gold lit up with power with steam being produced out of his body, showing that he was ready to fight. "What do you mean, fight? Are you stupid? These guys might be able to kill All Might, the #1 hero for crying out loud, and you expect us to be able to fight them? You're contradicting yourself, Midoriya. The best plan would be to sit tight and wait for the UA heroes to come save us, of course." Mineta cried out as he feared for his life and didn't want to fight when he knew that these villains could possibly kill All Might. "We don't have time to be sitting around and doing nothing. As we speak, our classmates are fighting for their lives against these villains. Now is not the time to be a coward, Mineta. Man up and face your fears or else it could cost you your life. We can't allow them to win and get away with it. We have to put our lives on the line and do the best we can so that we can live to see tomorrow and put a stop to their evil plans. That is part of what it means to be a hero," IZUKU replied with absolute seriousness. As he was saying that, he couldn't help but look over the villains as he tries to use CS one more time. It only took a few seconds until it glitched out on him again, but those few seconds was enough for him and came to the conclusion that most of these villains are just low-tier cannon fodder. Students like himself, Todoroki, and Katsuki should be able to handle all of them by themselves no problem, while the rest of the class can beat them as long as they have a partner or two that can help fend them off. Mineta accepted the fact that they did indeed have to fight, so he sucked it up and asked, "Okay, so what do you think we should? What's your plan?" "Mineta, those guys down there are clearly assuming we'll fight in the water. They are just floating there doing nothing. They are waiting for us to make the first move," IZUKU said as they observed the villains below them in the water. "Does that mean they knew what was in these facilities before they gathered people?" Tsuyu asked. "Exactly. For people who gathered that much intel so meticulously, there's something strange. They sent you, Sue, to the shipwreck zone. This means, in other words, the villains probably don't know what our quirks are. IZUKU finished. Ribbit. That's true. If they knew that I was a frog, then they probably would have thrown me into that fire zone over there. IZUKU nodded. They probably separated us because they didn't know our quirks, so they planned to overpower us with numbers. We have inferior number and less experience. Our only hope lies in the fact that our opponents don't know what our quirks are. The enemy isn't trying to climb the boat. That supports my hypothesis. But that probably means they aren't underestimating us, either. IZUKU said as he analyzed the situation as much as possible in order to come up with a sufficient plan to get past these villains. I'll tell you more about my quirk. I can jump high, stick to walls, and stick my tongue out up to about 20 meters. I can also spit out my stomach and wash it, and secrete toxic mucus that actually just stings a little. The last two are practically useless, so you can probably forget about them. Suyu said as she finished explaining all of the abilities that her quirk gives here. IZUKU nodded his head. Alright, I've already told you what my quirk is capable of, but I'll say it more than before. My quirk allows to be more machine-like as it allows to use functions to help me be at offensive or defensive situations, but there's a limit to how I use my functions which will pit me out of commission if I'm not too careful, IZUKU said. My quirk creates balls on my head that grow as fast as I can pull them. They stick super tight. Depending on how I'm feeling, they can even stick for a whole day. But if I pull off too many balls, I'll start bleeding. They don't stick to me. They just bounce off. Silence followed Mineta's explanation of his quirk as both IZUKU and Suyu just stared at him, not uttering a word. Mineta's eyes began to water as he cried out, "That's why I said we should just wait quietly. My quirk is totally unfit for battle." IZUKU's sweat dropped at Mineta's childish antics. "No, it's not like that. It is an amazing quirk. We can actually do something with it. Please don't get discouraged," IZUKU said calmly as he tried to calm down his grape-haired classmate. But right as he said that, one of the villains used his quirk to manipulate the water in such a way, so that it can become sharper than a sword, and used the water to slice through the ship the three students were on, cleanly in half. "I'm getting impatient. Let's end this quickly." The ship rumbled as it began to slowly sink. "What power? The ship's broken," Suyu said. In response to the attack, Mineta ran to the edge of the ship and began to rapidly throw his purple balls down to the water towards the villains in absolute panic. It was a desperation move as he thought they were going to die anyways. "Don't just give up like that. What are you doing? The enemy will figure out you're queer," IZUKU began to say but didn't finish his sentence as he saw that the villains were being very cautious of Mineta's purple balls and tried to move away from them. "What the heck are these?" one villain said as he tried to shoo away the grape-colored orbs. "They're being cautious and not touching them," IZUKU thought as suddenly an idea popped into his head. Mineta said they can stick to anything besides himself. That means, single quote, "The boat will sink in less than a minute. Once they get into the water, we're sure to win," a villain said as they prepared to end the three students' lives as soon as the ship sunk. "Oh no, they're right," Mineta said as tears were still present on his face. "Mineta, did you really enter UA to become a hero?" Suyu asked blatantly as his cowardly attitude was kind of pathetic in her opinion and not fitting of a student who wanted to be a hero. "Shut up. It's weirder to not be scared right now. We were only in junior high until a little while ago. Who would have thought that we would be almost killed right after starting school? Oh, man, I'm going to die before I could have at least touched Yaoyorozu's boobs first." Mineta yelled as he cowardly accepted the fact that he was going to die before he even reached the age of 18. "Oh, will you please shut up and listen? Nobody is going to die. It's going to be fine. Trust me, I've got an idea." IZUKU shouted as he formulated a plan in his head that he was sure would get them out of their current predicament safe and sound with minimal injuries. He now had both of their attention as they waited to hear what he had to say. "When the enemy becomes certain of their victory, that will be our chance. All Might said so before on TV. They don't know what our quirks are. So we'll use that to our advantage. I'm going to jump and get their attention and use ONF my functions and blast them away so they can become discombobulated. When that happens, you both jump out of the ship and Mineta will spam purple balls at them as much as he can. This will keep them immobilized. As they are distracted, I'll land the final blow in order to secure the victory. Got it. We don't have much time anyways. Izuku finished explaining the plan as both Tsuyu and Mineta nodded their heads, signaling that they understood. You really must be kids, with all of the chirping and screaming. One villain said as he taunted the young first years. Hey, Shigaraki said to not let your guard down, remember. Don't judge them by their ages. Look at their quirks. It's common sense, isn't it? Because our quirks will definitely have an advantage in the water. Izuku then used Heat Wave and flew in the air as he yelled out a loud battle cry that reverberated throughout the shipwreck zone, reminiscent of the roar of a beast. His hair suddenly spikes up as his eyes gave off a deep golden glow as he clasps his hands together that causes clips to open around his arms with a grin on his face as he launched what appeared to be miniature missiles and fired them repeatedly at the villains, doing as much damage as he could but at the same time, not trying to kill them. Taste this. Missile Devastation Attack, Note, or MDA for short. Izuku yelled out his attack as he kept launching the missiles non-stop, each one creating huge impacts in the water. The villains didn't know how to react as they have never seen a quirk like Izuku's before. The blasts pushed them away as some of them were hit directly and the heat burned them like boiling hot water and caused devastating pain. Seeing that now, they were distracted, Izuku yelled, Su. Mineta, now, ribbit. Tsuyu carried Mineta in her arms as she jumped out of the ship. Mineta tightened his fists, damn it. What the heck, Midoriya? Why are you so brave? Even though we're probably in the worst situation possible, you still jump and act. You don't back down and you don't give up no matter what. How did you become so strong? I'm nothing but a coward. Mineta thought as he gripped a purple ball on his head. But no more. I'm no longer going to be afraid. I want to be a hero just like everybody else. I'm going to become strong and cool, just like you. Mineta yelled as he found new motivation within himself as he kept throwing as many purple balls as fast as he could towards where all of the villains were. I'm getting dragged in, yelled a villain as they were all getting sucked up towards the middle and were getting dangerously close to each other. Mineta's purple orbs began to stick to each and every one of them. What is this crap? I can't get it off. Izuku floated above them as he observed the sight. If a strong force is applied to the surface of the water, it'll spread, and then converge back in the middle. Izuku yelled as he saw that all of the villains were squashed up together smack in the middle, courtesy of Mineta's purple sticky balls that made them all stuck and unable to move and get away from each other. Move. Get away from me. I can't move. We're too close. Numerous villains said as they were helpless and pretty much stuck together. Izuku then took a breath as he looked within himself as unclasped his hands and aimed his right hand down as his palm opened up and a high pressurized sound was heard as he closes one eye as sweat poured out from his forehead. Now for the final blow. Izuku said as his arm glowed up and traveled all the way to his eye that was opened. Kubaku. Izuku yelled out the name of one of his attacks as he sends down a high pressurized attack from his open metallic palm. The result was a huge typhoon of force that was sent directly to where all of the villains were grouped up. The villains widened their eyes in fear as the attack blew them all away at once, knocking them out of commission as they were finally dealt with and knocked out unconscious. Izuku smirked as he saw the beauty that fell before him, perfect combo. Good job, Su and Mineta. Izuku yelled out in victory as he flew towards where Tsuyu jumped in the air. Well, looks like we cleared the shipwreck zone. You two are amazing, Su said as she was grateful that she had classmates as strong and courageous as them. Hey, Midoriya, we're just here to see how things are going, right? Mineta asked nervously. He, Tsuyu, and Izuku had made it out of the shipwreck zone and into the main plaza, where Aizawa was holding off a huge mob of villains. After clearing the goons in the shipwreck zone, Izuku had suggested that the three of them check on Aizawa. Mineta was hesitant at first, unconvinced it was a good idea, but Izuku couldn't shake the worry that their teacher had taken on too much by himself. He decided they had to help. Still, he reassured Mineta and Tsuyu that if things got too dangerous, they would pull back immediately. So don't worry, we'll run the second it looks dangerous. I'm not going to put you guys in harm's way, Izuku said. The three of them stayed hidden from the villains, sightline, watching the battle unfold below. Bodies littered the ground. Aizawa moved through the mob of cannon fodder thugs with brutal efficiency, tying up two more with his scarf and knocking them out cold. When he looked up, Tamura Shigaraki was already closing the distance, his right hand outstretched. "So you're the final boss, huh?" Aizawa said, whipping his scarf toward him. 24 seconds. 20 seconds. 17 seconds, Tamura muttered as he closed in, counting down under his breath. Aizawa threw an elbow at Tamura's chest, but at the last second Tamura caught it in a tight grip. "Damn it," Aizawa hissed, realizing his attack had been stopped cold. "It's hard to see because you keep moving," Tamura said, "but there's a moment where your hair falls." Aizawa's eyes widened. His hair only settled when he blinked, when his quirk briefly deactivated. "That's when you've turned it off, and the gap keeps getting shorter the more tired you get. Don't push yourself so hard, Eraser Head." Tamura's fingers closed. The skin of Aizawa's elbow tore apart, exposing bone as cracks spread across his arm. Aizawa wrenched himself free and staggered back, gripping the ruined joint. "My elbow," he muttered. The remaining villains rushed him while he was reeling, and he fought them off one-armed, panting hard, his fatigue from the drawn-out fight starting to show. "That quirk isn't built for a long fight against a crowd, is it?" Tamura taunted. "It's not exactly your usual job either. You're better at a short fight after a surprise attack, but you jumped straight into this one. Was that so your students would feel safe?" Aizawa readied his scarf again, glaring at him, ready to finish the fight head-on. "You're so cool, Eraser Head." "So cool," Tamura said. "By the way, I'm not the final boss." Aizawa turned just in time to see a huge, black-skinned villain with an exposed brain looming right behind him. He hadn't even heard it move. "His name is Nomu," Tamura said. "He's the one you actually need to worry about." Nomu's hands came down before Aizawa could react. Aizawa tried to erase its quirk, but nothing happened. Nomu slammed him into the ground, then wrenched his arm until it snapped. Aizawa screamed. Nomu's strength didn't make sense. Nobody should have had that much raw power. "You can erase quirks, that's impressive," Tamura said, watching his creation work. "But it means nothing against power like this. You might as well be quirkless." He smiled, savoring the sight of his toy taking apart the erasure hero. Aizawa's eyes flared red again, and he stared straight at Nomu, trying to erase its quirk a second time. Just like before, nothing happened. Nomu snapped his other arm. Aizawa's grunt of pain tore through the plaza. "It's like breaking a stick," Aizawa thought, dazed. "I know I erased its quirk. That means this is just how strong it is naturally. It's as strong as All Might." Nomu picked his head up by the hair and slammed it into the concrete, cracking the ground beneath him. The beating was completely one-sided. Mineta pressed his hands over his face. Midoriya, I can't take it anymore. I can't watch this. It's too much. We have to get out of here before we get hurt too," he whispered. "Ribbit," Tsuyu murmured, struggling to look away from the blood pooling beneath their teacher. She hadn't expected any villain to be this strong enough to tear apart a pro-hero like he was nothing. Izuku's jaw was clenched so hard it ached, his knuckles white, rage burning through him as he watched Aizawa get ground into the dirt. It sickened him. Only the fact that Tsuyu and Mineta were with him kept him from charging in, but his patience was running out fast. He was seconds from snapping. That was when a cloud of purple mist curled into the plaza, and Kurogiri stepped out of it. "Tamura Shigaraki," Kurogiri said, drawing his attention. "Kurogiri, did you kill 13? Tamura asked. "I put 13 out of commission," Kurogiri said. "But some students slipped past me, and one of them managed to get away and call for help." Tamura's expression soured, and he scratched at his neck. "Kurogiri, you idiot, if you weren't the only one of us who can open a warp gate, I'd have crushed you where you stand." Pros were on their way now. That changed everything. Izuku's mind raced. Someone had escaped and called for help. That had to mean backup was coming. If he had to guess, it was Iida. His quirk made him fast enough that it made sense he'd be the one to make it out. Relief washed through him. Help was coming. Tamura let out a long sigh and stopped scratching his neck. "We can't win against a dozen pros. It's game over. Man, what a pain. Let's just go home." Mineta's face lit up with hope. "Wait, are they leaving? Did he just say they're going home?" he asked, like he couldn't trust his own ears. "That's what I heard," Tsuyu said, hope creeping into her voice too. Izuku wasn't buying it. He kept his guard up, watching for the next move. They wanted to kill All Might. If they backed off now, UA would only tighten security afterward, making a second attempt even harder. Game over. No, he didn't believe that for a second. Something else was coming. Tamura tilted his head. Oh, right, before we go, let's knock down his pride a little. In a blink, Tamura shot toward the 3 hidden students at transonic speed, hand aimed straight at Tsuyu's face. As the symbol of peace, he shouted as he closed in. Before he could land the blow, IZUKU's backhand caught him across the side of the head, matching his speed exactly. Tamura went tumbling back toward Kurogiri and Nomu, hitting the ground hard. He pushed himself up, rubbing his head where the punch had connected. Lay another finger on her again and I'll give you a lot worse than a backhand, IZUKU said, standing protectively in front of Mineta and Tsuyu. Tamura studied him with open fascination. You move well. That attack had some real power behind it. Are you a fan of All Might's? His punches carried the same weight, the same style. IZUKU ignored him completely. Calculated specs flickered back online, and he turned his attention to Nomu, still looming over Aizawa, blood spreading across the ground beneath him. IZUKU's stomach dropped. Aizawa's vitals were fading fast. If he didn't get treatment soon, it would be too late. IZUKU glared at Nomu, his whole body shaking with fury. Get your hands off my teacher, you damn birdbrain. If you don't move right now, I'm going to make you regret it. Aizawa lifted his head weakly, blood running down his face, his voice barely holding together. Midoriya, forget about me. You and the others need to run and save yourselves. You're too young. You've got your whole life ahead of you. Please, just go. It's too late for me. IZUKU shook his head. No, it's not too late. What kind of hero would I be if I let one of my own die when I could have done something? I'm not running. Aizawa's eyes widened. His student was outright disobeying a direct order to save him. It was reckless, the height of irrationality, but it was also exactly the kind of thing All Might would do, throw yourself into danger for someone else no matter the cost. Noble, sure, not necessarily smart, especially against an opponent this far out of your league. IZUKU was smarter than he let on. Aizawa understood, watching him, that IZUKU knew full well he couldn't win this fight and was going to throw himself into it anyway, just to buy the rest of the class time until the pros arrived. But Aizawa, a professional hero, had been taken down in seconds by Nomu. How long could a first year with zero real combat experience possibly last against something on All Might's level? IZUKU fixed Nomu with a hard stare. Move, he ordered. Nomu said nothing, motionless, waiting on Tamura's next order. IZUKU's patience snapped. I said move, goddammit. He triggered Heat Wave, what used to be Heat Blaster before he'd started calling it something else, and shot forward faster than a jet, driving a kick into Nomu's head hard enough to actually push the monster back a step. What? Tamura shouted, stunned that the kid had thrown himself at Nomu without a shred of hesitation. IZUKU followed with a barrage of punches to Nomu's midsection, each one carrying enough force to level a building. The blows staggered the creature, the heat behind them doing real damage on top of the impact. He drove an uppercut into its jaw, kicked it back, then fired a condensed blast of heat straight at its face. Nomu caught the blast with both hands, but IZUKU was already closing the gap, appearing right in front of it and hitting it with an even stronger blast at point-blank range. The impact sent the anti-symbol of peace stumbling backward, and a second blast slammed into it, detonating in a wall of heat and smoke that rolled across the plaza. Everyone watching froze. Nobody had ever seen anyone fight like that. Tsuyu, Mineta, and even Aizawa stared in awe at the sheer force behind IZUKU's attacks, while Shigaraki and Kurogiri looked on, unable to process that a 15-year-old was actually pushing Nomu back. Tamura scratched at his neck, agitated. Where's all that power coming from? Nobody told us UA had a brat who could go toe-to-toe with Nomu. Not fair, not fair, not fair. He's using a cheat code. IZUKU turned and scooped Aizawa up, carrying him over to Tsuyu and Mineta. You two, get Mr. Aizawa out of here now. It's about to get a lot more dangerous. I'm not letting either of you get hurt. But Midoriya, what about you? Mineta asked, panic creeping into his voice. Don't tell me you're planning to take them on by yourself. Backup's on the way, but I'm going to buy the rest of the class time and keep these villains busy until the pros get here, IZUKU said. If I don't, they'll go after as many of our classmates as they can before help arrives. I can't let that happen. Please, just go. Tsuyu nodded and took Aizawa from him. Okay, we're counting on you, Midoriya. Stay safe. Mineta wiped his eyes as he and Tsuyu turned to leave and regroup with the others. You'd better not die, Midoriya. Survive this. IZUKU managed a smirk. I promise. As they left, Tamura straightened up. You'd have to be an idiot to think I'm letting that happen. But before he could finish, IZUKU was already there, appearing in front of him in a burst of supersonic speed. He caught Tamura's wrist and squeezed until the bones ground together. Don't you dare, he said, then swung him by the arm and hurled him into Kurogiri. Both of them hit the ground hard. An alert flashed through IZUKU's calculated specs. Nomu was already closing the distance again at full speed, without a mark on it. All those hits, all that damage, and it hadn't left a scratch. IZUKU let out a slow, wild grin. Guess you're tougher than I thought. Fine, let's get a lot more serious. He rolled his shoulders. Serious. Metal spread across his arms and crept up his neck to his face. His eyes went fully black, his irises burning liquid gold. A single line ran from the back of his neck down his left arm, spikes rising along his shoulders and elbows, his hands curling into claw-tipped gauntlets. A faceplate slid up to cover the lower half of his face. Get ready, IZUKU said, voice muffled behind the metal. You bastard. IZUKU made a mad dash at Nomu, gathering heat and momentum into a devastating kick, but Nomu shrugged it off without so much as flinching and lunged to grab him. IZUKU dodged the massive arm at the last second, a burst of heat from his palms lifting him just above Nomu's head, and unleashed a barrage of heat wave down onto the monster. Heat wave barrage, IZUKU shouted as wave after wave of superheated attacks slammed into Nomu, pushing it back and leaving bruises across its skin. He wasn't done. He pressed the advantage, chaining one attack into the next without pause. Nomu tanked blow after blow, but it wasn't ready for the roundhouse kick that snapped its head to the side with an audible crack. That moment of surprise made IZUKU hesitate, and the hesitation cost him. Nomu closed the distance in an instant and drove a punch into his midsection. IZUKU's eyes went wide with pain, but he answered with a close-range heat wave blast to Nomu's head that sent it skidding across the ground. He clutched his stomach, fighting down the urge to be sick, and managed to sidestep another punch before Nomu could follow up. He put some distance between them, trying to think. Nomu didn't look fazed by anything he'd thrown at it. Damn it, IZUKU muttered. Didn't that do anything? What are you? His mind was racing even as he asked the question, and that was when the villain with the hand fetish finally spoke up. His quirk is shock absorption, Shigaraki said, laughing. He can take every punch you've got and then some, and he won't feel a thing. He savored the look on Izuku's face. There was nothing this brat could do to hurt Nomu, let alone beat him. Izuku pushed himself back up, feeling fast healing kick in, the numbness that always followed it not far behind. All right, he thought. If that's really all he's got, I can work with this. I just need to buy time until the pros get here, or until All Might drags himself into gear. I already healed him once, so hurry up. He can absorb hits, Izuku reasoned, but that doesn't mean there's no limit to how much. There has to be a ceiling somewhere, and I'm going to find it. All right, then, Izuku said out loud. Let's do this. He ignited heat wave in his feet and shot toward Nomu, throwing everything he had into a relentless string of heat-powered punches, closing the distance as much as he could and refusing to let up. Then he did something else. He brought his arms together, the slats along them sliding open and charging with energy as he activated heavy artillery. Incinerate, Izuku yelled, and unleashed a devastating blast at point-blank range. Dust and smoke swallowed the impact. When it cleared, Izuku's stomach dropped. Nomu hadn't taken a scratch. No way, he breathed. Shigaraki's smirk widened. It's no use, brat. There's nothing you can do that'll even scratch him. Just give up and accept your death with a little grace. Izuku narrowed his eyes and squared back up. There's no such thing as give up in my vocabulary. Shigaraki sighed. So be it, then. No more of this. He charged Izuku himself, throwing out a barrage of attacks with strength that nearly matched Izuku's own. Izuku dodged and blocked as much as he could, leaning on fast healing to keep going, but just as he reached for Heat Wave, a voice in his head told him it was unavailable. He reached for fast healing next, and the voice told him that was unavailable too. One by one, every function in his arsenal shut down, even calculated specs. No, Izuku muttered, eyes wide with dawning horror. Before he could counter, Nomu's arms wrapped around him in a crushing bear hug and began to squeeze. Izuku screamed. The pain was unbearable, his ribs snapping like twigs one after another, his lungs compressing until he couldn't draw a breath. His faceplate deactivated. Blood spilled from his mouth. Yes, Nomu, squeeze him to death, Shigaraki shouted, delighted. Those screams are music to my ears. Damn it, he won't let go, Izuku thought, his vision starting to swim. Damn it, I'm not dying like this. His whole life seemed to flash in front of him. Come on, he begged whatever voice lived in his head. Whatever you've got left, give it to me now. He screamed the plea out loud, and something answered. A new function came online, and Izuku opened his mouth and let it out. A devastating, ear-splitting scream aimed straight at Nomu at point-blank range. It tore into Nomu's exposed brain, and the creature shrieked in pain and released him. Even Shigaraki flinched at the sound. What the hell did you just do? Shigaraki snapped, rubbing his ears. The new function shut itself off almost as fast as it had appeared, leaving Izuku coughing up blood, gasping for air. Shigaraki was furious, but he couldn't deny that Nomu had actually taken damage this time. Nomu, finish him. Now, Shigaraki ordered. We can't let this brat become a problem for us later. Nomu obeyed instantly, charging at full speed to end it in one strike. Calculated specs flickered back online just in time, the visor sliding across Izuku's face, and he weaved through Nomu's attacks, answering with quick, sharp jabs and roundhouse kicks to its torso and head. Shigaraki scratched at his neck, irritated. How is he still standing against Nomu like that? Izuku knew his life was hanging by a thread. He decided to gamble on the fourth function again, heavy artillery, but this time not incinerate. He unlocked its secondary function for the first time. His arms folded together and reshaped into what looked like a massive cannon, blue energy pouring out of the barrel. Breathing hard, he dropped to one knee to steady the weapon. Final impact, Izuku said, and fired. A column of blue energy tore into Nomu and threw it backward in an instant, the resulting explosion nearly blowing the roof off the USJ. Izuku kept the blast trained on Nomu alone. The recoil sent him skidding back, cracks spreading across his arms as the cannon reverted to normal. Every one of his functions shut down at once, and he was left gasping for breath, but he was certain of one thing: the real threat was finally down. The pros could clean up whatever was left. Except Izuku was struggling just to breathe. Tamura scratched his neck hard enough to draw blood. No, this isn't possible, Shigaraki said. Nomu doesn't lose to some UA freshman. Then the smoke cleared, and Izuku's eyes went wide. Nomu's entire right side, arm and torso both, had been blown away, blood pooling beneath it in a scene straight out of a nightmare. For a second Izuku thought he'd actually finished it. Then the wound began to knit itself back together, the missing arm and torso regrowing within seconds until Nomu stood there again without a single mark on it. No way, Izuku said. You told me his quirk was shock absorption, not regeneration. Shigaraki smirked, relief plain on his face. I never said that was his only quirk. He's got shock absorption, regeneration, and a handful of others stitched into him. Nomu isn't a person, not really. He was built for one purpose, killing All Might. He's the anti-symbol of peace. Izuku could hardly process it. This thing had been engineered from multiple stolen quirks with a single goal, killing the number one hero, and Izuku had just thrown everything he had at it for nothing. His functions were dead. He couldn't even stand. Shigaraki's eyes gleamed with cruelty. I think it's time we wrap this up, don't you? You put up one hell of a fight, but we've got bigger things to worry about, mainly All Might, and we can't let him live either. You're too dangerous to leave breathing. I'd offer you a spot in the league, but I already know you'd say no. Shame. Nomu, finish him. Nomu turned and started toward where Izuku knelt on the ground, utterly defenseless. Izuku gritted his teeth and tried to force his body to move, but nothing answered. I have to move, he thought desperately. I have to move. Where are the pros? Come on, come on, come on. Don't worry, Tamura said, closing in behind Nomu, grinning. As soon as we're done with you, we'll make sure the rest of your classmates get a nice, slow, painful death too. You won't have to wait long to see them again. He laughed. Izuku's breathing turned ragged as Nomu closed the last few steps. Before he could gather himself, Nomu's hand closed around his throat and hauled him into the air. Izuku, with nothing left to fight with, could only hang there, helpless. Nomu's other fist drove forward and punched straight through him. Izuku's eyes went wide and empty. Then a blast of raw explosive force slammed into Nomu from the side, hurling it away from him, though the damage was already done. Katsuki Bakugo landed hard, breathing fire and fury. Izuku dropped. Kirishima caught him just in time, eyes going wide with horror. No way, he said, voice cracking. Nomu started forward again, only for a wall of ice to close around it, followed by another blast from Katsuki that shoved it back. The ice belonged to Todoroki. Her eyes went wide too, the instant she saw Izuku in Kirishima's arms. Katsuki walked toward him on shaking legs. Izuku managed a weak, bloody smile. You're a bit late, guys, he coughed out. Shigaraki burst out laughing. Oh, what a shame. 3 of you, and you're so late that one of your little friends had to die for it. Don't worry, you'll be joining him and Nomu soon enough. The moment he said it, Nomu tore free of the ice without a scratch on it. Todoroki and Katsuki both squared up. Kirishima, Katsuki said without looking away from Nomu. Watch over him for me. Kirishima nodded. Katsuki, Izuku whispered, his voice trembling. Katsuki glanced back and saw the light in Izuku's eyes fading fast. Before Izuku could get another word out, his hand went slack and his head dropped. Katsuki's breath caught in his throat. Tears welled up, hot with grief and fury both, as he turned his glare on Nomu, on Shigaraki, on Kurogiri. Izuku, he said, voice shaking. You bastards. But Izuku wasn't gone. Not yet. Something else was happening, hidden beneath the surface. Feature number 5, Protocol DEMO, activated at maximum intensity in true life or death situations, and this qualified. Izuku's dimmed, lifeless eyes suddenly flared red. Katsuki kept blasting Nomu with explosion after explosion. No matter how he looked at it, this bastard wasn't dying. Nomu lunged for a punch. Katsuki was fast enough to dodge and fire back with another blast, but Nomu just shrugged it off like it hadn't felt a thing, and that only made him angrier. Then, out of nowhere, Nomu froze solid, giving Katsuki just enough time to load up a bigger explosion and send it flying back. I didn't need your help, Ice Queen, Katsuki snapped. If I hadn't stopped it in time, you'd have gotten hit, Todoroki said evenly. A thank you wouldn't kill you. Katsuki wasn't in the mood. He'd just lost his best friend, and he was past furious. Nomu broke free of the ice, only to catch another block of it square on and go skidding back far enough to buy them a breath. This thing is shrugging off everything we throw at it, Todoroki said, lowering her hand. Katsuki nodded grimly. And no matter how much damage we do, it just regenerates. Damn, how much punishment can this screwed up thing take? It barely even looks hurt. The sound of ice cracking reached them again, and Nomu tore free once more. Katsuki blasted it forward and drove a concentrated fist into its midsection, though it only staggered back a step. He was winding up for another hit when the ice started climbing up Nomu's body again. Hurry up and send it to Kingdom Come. Todoroki shouted. What do you think I've been doing this whole time? Katsuki shot back, unloading blast after blast into its face, driving it into the ground hard enough to spiderweb the concrete beneath it. Katsuki knew this was far from over. A short distance away, Kirishima kept checking that Izuku wasn't losing any more blood. He could just barely feel a heartbeat under his fingers, faint and unsteady, and it took everything he had to keep Izuku stable while watching Katsuki and Todoroki hold the line against Nomu. The fight had turned completely one-sided. The harder Katsuki and Todoroki tried to slow it down, the more aggressively Nomu came back at them, almost like it was learning their patterns in real time. It caught them both with a hit to the midsection that knocked the wind clean out of them and sent them stumbling back. It wasn't finished. It followed with a kick that Katsuki barely dodged, while Todoroki threw up a wall of ice that absorbed most of the impact but still sent her sliding backward. Nomu grabbed for Todoroki. She twisted her arm and froze its grip solid, buying just enough time to pull free while Katsuki fired off a blast that tore through its jaw and throat. Its skull caved in where one eye should have been. By any reasonable measure, it should have looked like a corpse. Instead, Katsuki and Todoroki watched in horror as the exposed muscle writhed and bulged, oozing back into place, new blackened skin knitting shut over the wound in seconds. Nomu lunged again with its one working arm. Todoroki flinched and threw her hand up on instinct, and the creature was swallowed whole in another block of ice from head to toe, stopped dead. She didn't stop there, layering wave after wave of ice over the first, burying it deeper until it was nothing but a blurry shape trapped inside. She sucked in a few ragged breaths, trying to steady her racing heart, and gave the new prison a long once-over. Satisfied, she allowed herself a small sigh and made her way over to Katsuki, who was pushing himself back up off the ground. He was still on edge. He knew this thing wasn't done. "You need to get IZUKU out of here, now," Katsuki said to Todoroki. She blinked at him. "You think you can take that thing on by yourself? I'm not trying to take it out. I'm trying to buy time." He turned toward Kirishima. "Get IZUKU out of here. Todoroki's going with you." Before Kirishima could answer, all three of them heard the ice groan. Their eyes went wide. A crack was spreading across the surface of the block, starting right where Nomu's outstretched arm had been. Todoroki poured on another layer the second she saw it, but within seconds the crack had already worked its way through the new ice too, spreading further. This shouldn't be happening, she thought, gritting her teeth as she added more ice, her arms starting to go numb. Her ice was strong enough to stop nearly anything. Nothing should have been able to break through that much of it. Nothing except maybe All Might, or something built specifically to kill a monster like this. None of them knew that IZUKU, still cradled in Kirishima's arms, his eyes glassy and unfocused, was somehow watching everything unfold, analyzing it in real time. It didn't quite feel like it was IZUKU doing the watching. It felt like something else entirely. Todoroki had never pushed this much ice out of herself before. All her training had drilled her on control, speed, precision, shaping her ice exactly how and where she wanted it. She'd never once tried to just let go completely and see how big a single piece could get with no limit at all. Under any other circumstances she might have been a little proud of herself. That feeling barely registered under the wave of rage and disbelief crashing over her as she watched nearly 20 feet of solid ice keep cracking anyway. She sucked in a sharp breath, steam pouring from her lips. She'd already lost all feeling in her right arm, her right leg going numb close behind as the cold crept into her chest. Her whole body shook, her knees starting to buckle from the strain. Katsuki caught her before she could push out more ice. "You're at your limit," he said. "Keep going and you're out of commission." "What are you doing?" she snapped, trying to shove past him. "You're gonna be a liability," Katsuki said. "Hell, so am I at this point. Doesn't matter how hard we push, this thing keeps getting back up." Then came a crack like a gunshot. Then another. Then a dozen more, jagged lines racing across the whole ice structure as whatever was inside strained against it. When Nomu finally broke free, it didn't just crawl out, it exploded outward, sending chunks of ice the size of boulders flying in every direction, gouging trails through the rock and dirt as they landed. Todoroki shielded her eyes from the blast of freezing air, ears ringing from a roar that seemed to shake the ground itself. Nomu stood in the middle of the crater it had made, completely healed, not a mark on it. Its eye had regrown. Both of its flat, beady eyes locked onto Katsuki and Todoroki. It sucked in a deep breath, a roar building in its throat as it readied itself to charge. Before Katsuki could even throw a blast, something shot past him in a blur. "IZUKU!" Katsuki shouted, eyes wide. Just as Nomu lunged, IZUKU met it head-on with a punch so devastating it sent the creature skipping across the ground like a stone. He turned to face Katsuki, Todoroki, and now Kirishima, all three of them frozen in shock. Feature number 5, Protocol DEMO, had activated, and IZUKU looked completely different. He was encased in armor built from interlocking black plates that mimicked an organic, almost draconic exoskeleton, each piece spiked and curved, sweeping upward toward his head. A permanent horn-like crest swept back from his helmet. Where his face should have been, a visor glowed with a piercing red light, giving away nothing, no eyes, no expression, nothing human at all. Large circular energy sockets sat embedded in his chest, shoulders, and lower torso. Every inch of it was some shade of matte charcoal, deep black, or dark gray. "Get to safety," IZUKU said, his voice flat and mechanical. "This creature is my priority now." Katsuki started forward to help, but IZUKU stopped him with a raised hand. "I appreciate it, Katsuki Bakugo," IZUKU said. Katsuki froze, thrown by the use of his full name. "But this is my fight. The heroes are coming, but they won't make it in time. For now, this is between me and it. This creature is going to die." Nomu let out a screech of pure rage and charged. IZUKU charged right back. Their fists met in the middle, and this time it wasn't close. IZUKU's strength sent Nomu skipping across the ground again like it weighed nothing at all. "I'd like to thank you, Nomu," IZUKU said, his voice still flat, still monotone. "For helping me unlock this feature. This is going to be your end." Protocol DEMO made the fight look almost cruel. Nomu threw punch after punch, kick after kick, each one carrying enough force to level a building, but none of it touched IZUKU. He didn't even flinch. The raw strength the armor gave him let him shrug off blow after blow while Nomu never landed a single hit that mattered. Shigaraki and Kurogiri watched from a distance, eyes wide with disbelief, unable to even get close. The pressure wave rolling off every exchange kept them pinned back. When Nomu threw another punch, IZUKU answered with a backhand that shattered its hand on impact. Nomu screamed. IZUKU grabbed it by the face and slammed it into the ground without a word, then dragged it across the concrete, hauled it back up, and drove a kick into its side. Nomu's wounds started to knit shut almost instantly, but IZUKU was already moving, heat wave carrying him forward at a speed far beyond anything he'd managed before. He closed the distance in a blink and buried a punch into it. "Don't hold back," Shigaraki screamed. "Destroy that brat." Nomu lunged, but IZUKU caught both of its arms and tore them clean off, then unloaded a storm of punches straight into its head, over and over, until the skin split and bled. Shigaraki's eyes went wider with every hit. "This can't be happening," he muttered. "This can't be happening." Nomu, already regrowing its arms, managed to slip past a punch and throw one of its own straight at IZUKU's face. IZUKU didn't even move. He caught the arm and twisted it aside like it was nothing. "So weak," he said, his voice flat and mechanical. He hauled Nomu into the air and drove a punch into it that sent it rocketing upward. Then he followed, heat wave blazing, unloading dozens of punches in the space of a few seconds, so fast that everyone on the ground lost track of what was happening. He drove it back down to the earth with bone-jarring force, then clasped his hands together. Demo protocol. Incinerate. Maximum effort. His hands reshaped into a cannon, and a beam of red energy tore into Nomu, leaving nothing behind but a scorched, unmoving husk. IZUKU landed without a sound. Shigaraki looked like he was about to come apart. "No, no, 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 this isn't supposed to happen." His hands twitched, his rage boiling over. "I'll destroy you myself." He charged straight at IZUKU. Behind him, Katsuki started forward to step in, but when IZUKU glanced his way, he stopped himself. Shigaraki reached IZUKU and lunged for his face, decay crawling from his fingertips. IZUKU caught his wrist before it landed, staring him down, and drove a knee into his midsection hard enough that Shigaraki nearly threw up blood. "So lukewarm," IZUKU said. "So pathetic. Do you actually think that power of yours can touch me? I'm far beyond anything you understand, Tamura Shigaraki. Be silent." Before Shigaraki could get another word out, IZUKU had already closed the distance and driven a fist into his face, sending him flying back hard enough that Kurogiri had to catch him. That was when the massive doors at the USJ entrance blew open with a crash. Tenya Iida stood in the light, smoke curling off his engines from the sprint. "Fellow classmates, I've brought reinforcements." Behind him poured in the UA faculty. Present Mike, Midnight, Ectoplasm, Hound Dog, Smintos, Principal Nezu, and All Might himself. "We are here to help." All Might boomed. Shigaraki clicked his tongue, fury cutting deep lines across his face as he realized the tide had turned against them completely. "Damn it, Kurogiri, we're leaving." Kurogiri nodded. "As you wish." His portal swirled open, but before they could vanish into it, Snipe's shots rang out, sharp and precise, striking Shigaraki across the arms and legs. Blood bloomed across his skin, and he dropped to one knee with a scream. "Damn it, you shot me, you bastard," he howled, clutching his wounds. Kurogiri's mist surged around him, shielding him from another volley as the portal swallowed them both. Just before it closed, Shigaraki fixed his glare on IZUKU one last time, venom dripping from every word. "I'll make sure you're nothing but scrap metal. You hear me, you brat." Then the villains were gone, and silence settled over the USJ. The faculty, along with what was left of Class 1A, Katsuki, Todoroki, and Kirishima among them, turned to look at IZUKU, still standing in his protocol DEMO armor. Katsuki started walking toward him. "IZUKU," he said. IZUKU turned to face him, and the light around his body began to fade, the armor cracking apart piece by piece until his hero costume showed through underneath. "That was a rush, huh, Katsuki?" IZUKU managed, before his legs gave out beneath him. Katsuki caught him before he hit the ground. "You did good, IZUKU," he muttered. "Damn, you did good. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to hype this video as it helps a lot, and now we will see you in the next video.